Hello and welcome to a semi-impromptu live Kerfefe break on Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I am your host, Keri, and I say semi-impromptu because I knew I wanted to do one today on New Year's Day. Happy New Year's to everyone. But I also didn't prepare because we've been having a grand old time today. And so then it became like last minute trying to get the tech working again, and my whole system like resets itself all the time, and the lights and whatever. So yeah, so we just put up the announcement, and I figured this will be, somebody said nobody here but us chickens. This will be just for us chickens who happen to be here. um but happy New Year to everyone. I'll tell you, my husband and I started it with a sunrise hike this morning. It was butt cold. Is that a Texas expression, or is that a South Carolina expression? It was very cold. And we went to this lake, sort of reservoir, and where there's lots of different nature trails. And we took Tiger, and he loved it. And I can't, it sucks getting up that early, and it's cold. And there's all these things that you're like, this is annoying. Why am I doing this again? But it's so worth it. Like going to the gym. You don't want to go to the gym, but afterwards you're so glad you did. It's like one of those things. And I can't recommend it enough. So that's what we did this morning. And hi, guys. Hi, Two Sisters and Some Yarn. I saw your comment before I started. You said something about how I changed the artwork. Yeah. Hey, give it up for Two Sisters and Some Yarn, one of our mods. She said, hello, all. I LOL, love the gonna be late time change. Yeah, on the art, I put we start at 1:10 today. Just because it was okay, let's just say it's gonna be late. But yeah. And I'm getting over the sniffles, some kind of cold. It's been going around. I hope that you guys are doing well and you don't have sniffles like I do, but it'll be over soon. Here's what we've been doing. Today's just going to be a fun episode. I have some stuff prepared that's more serious. There's this crazy book I want to show you guys, but I think I'm going to do that on a different episode, and this will just be fun and hanging out. Cheeky Mare. I also have the sniffles. So this is going to be a fun episode. I'm sorry you have the sniffles, lady. I was going to mention you. I'm glad you're here. Let's just start with this then. I don't go to the mailbox that often. I have a box for if you guys ever want to send a letter or something to Deprogrammed. I have a box, and I make it over there like once a month. And there was the most amazing gift waiting from your mod, Cheeky Mare, and it blew my mind. And let me see if I can bring this picture up and show you for those who haven't seen it yet, because I did post some pictures. It's just incredible. It reminds me of the quilt that a bunch of the knitters in the chat also made for my wedding, for my husband and I, for our wedding. This is a beautiful quilt that Cheeky Mare made for me and my husband. And where's the picture? Why won't it come up? If you guys have the link to where I shared it, share it with me, because I'm looking for it and it seems to be lost. Sorry. Let me scroll. Anyway, the amount of hours, here it is. It's unbelievable. The amount of hours that this would take, I can't even. Can you guys see that? No? How about now? There you go. Okay, this is what Cheeky Mare made. It's king size. I'd actually was like going to stretch it out on the bed to take a photo, and then I figured it wasn't king size and we would move it, but it is. And it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. She made this whole quilt. And yeah, this is our bedroom. Our bedroom's pretty much finished. We're finished renovating it, except we've got to fix something with the chandelier. And also there's like a gap between the there's a hole. The hole that we cut to hang the chandelier is a little too big for the base of the chandelier, the part that attaches to the ceiling. So there's a gap there to the attic. So I finally got one of these, uh, a replica of a really beautiful ceiling medallion is what they're called. And it looks like it's plaster, but it's not. But we're gonna put that up there and cover that hole. We still have to do that, and we still have to add some quarter rounds, but this is our bedroom. It's pretty much done. And look at this gorgeous quilt on the bed. And she added this message, and I took off her name because her real name was on here, but she wrote this really nice, she sewed this really nice message. Thanks and love to Keri Smith Garcia, out of darkness now, a lantern for the light of the world. That's a Christian thing, in my opinion. That's what that means when you're like a lantern for, look at that. You're a lantern for the light, and the light isn't you. The light is bigger than you. It's God. Sorry to cheese any atheists out. Spoiler alert, it's God. Okay, but that's what I think. That's what I think. And yeah, it's just, I'm so touched. I think it's beautiful. I see it every day. Yeah, Cheeky says it's a Christian thing. Yes. It made me think of Cheeky. I was talking with someone this weekend, and in that who I had just met, and she was saying, and she doesn't believe in God, but she was saying, I wonder if I could talk to you sometime about God, because I just don't get it, and I'm curious and what you think about certain things. And I said, sure. And she was saying something about, and you seem very, you seem very non-judgmental and nice or kind or whatever. And I had to stop her and say, yeah, okay, that's the first God thing that we would talk about, because that's not me. I mean, it's seriously, in some respects, it's this is one reason I know here, where, in your heart, in your soul, that I know God is real, is because there was a pronounced change in me when I found God. And if you had known me during my social justice days, I was very judgmental. I may have still been, had some of those other character traits, but I was not this kind of open. I thought I was open, but I was not. And so that's what that means. Lantern for the light of the world. So anyway, Cheeky Mirror, you're awesome. The quilt is awesome. I love it. Once we get the guest room fixed up, I'm gonna do another photo shoot with the knitted quilt that used to be behind me on the wall in the studio. We're putting that on a bed finally. I'm so excited. So we're just hanging out today, and we're talking about Christmas. I took some time off from the podcast during the break, obviously, and it was necessary time because we've been working a lot on the studio, and I'm just getting back into the swing of things and want to see how you guys are doing. And I could do a Q&A, we could hang out, do whatever you wanted, but I'm going to save the serious stuff for later this week. A couple of announcements though up top. Wednesday, we're having another That Christian panel. It's going to start at 6:00 Central here on Deprogrammed, and I think we'll be simulcasting. And the panelists include our regulars. It's going to be myself, Brahma Bull, Michelle from Force of Light, who I adore, and Odin from Odin's Movie Blog. I love all of these guys. I have so much fun with them. And this Wednesday, we're not doing a movie or a book this time. We're going to be reviewing woke preacher clips. And there's a really great Twitter account called Woke Preacher Clips. It's a Twitter account. There's a Facebook account, I think, and a YouTube. And that person does a great job of curating these heretical social justice preachers who claim to be preaching Christianity, who are actually preaching a different religion entirely, and does a good job of curating those clips and offering commentary on them. And I've spoken with this person before, and they are anonymous for reasons that a lot of people are anonymous online. So they won't be able to join us on the panel, which sucks. I would love to talk to them, but I understand completely. However, We're gonna go over the Woke Preacher Clips account. We're gonna go over their list of the wokest preacher clips of 2023. We're gonna view some of those and some others that panelists are bringing, and we may have a special guest for this episode. I'll let you know who, but I hope you tune in. Even if you're not a Christian, you are welcome to join us, and I'm sure we will find lots to laugh about and to talk about by viewing some of these woke preacher clips. So that's Wednesday at 6 o'clock Central here on Deprogrammed. Two sisters and some yarn. That'll be so fun. I know. I can't wait. It's going to be as fun as the racist dinner one, I think. And if you haven't seen that, guys, it was a 3-part thing. We did it. It was the last thing I did, and is the last thing I did last year. 2023 feels it feels like it was just yesterday. Uh, anyway, this last thing I did, it was a 3-part series where we watched the woke documentary, Deconstructing Karen, and we deconstructing Karen. And if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth the watch, because you don't want to pay money for that documentary, but you should see what they're putting out there into the world. And it was about these really expensive woke social justice dinners where these 2 con artists, Regina Jackson and Syra Rao, grift at the time when the documentary was filmed. It was 2019 or 2020. $2,500 per person to attend one of these dinners. It's mostly, they even say in the documentary, they admit it's mostly wealthy white women that they target, and these women pay $2,500 each to come to this dinner and be brainwashed with social justice ideology, with very racist social justice ideology. And so we watched the documentary together, and I would definitely recommend those. But yeah, the woke preacher clubs is going to be just as fun as that, I think. Okay. Nerdy Girl says, I definitely recommend checking out Bishop Robert Barron's show. He's a good example of a non-woke Christian intellectual. Thank you for the suggestion. I'm going to bookmark that so I can write that down later, because I don't have my... Thank you for that. What else? No, Mo, that video was absolutely repulsively cringe. Yes, the race to dinner stuff is cringe. And I hope normies find it. I hope if they're looking up those dinners, also women who are considering going to it, I hope they find our video series and see what it's all about. Two Sisters and Some Yarn gifted 5 Deprogrammed memberships. Thank you so much, lady. Thank you for the New Year's memberships. Z Highness is here. Hello, Z. Oh, I'll show you guys something else that's cool. Z is an artist. Also, if I recall correctly, Z, you are one of our younger... Aren't you one of our younger audience members? Like, whenever I say something about Generation Z, and then I think, well, not Z. She's not like that. uh, is that true, or am I confusing you with someone else? Aren't you a based young person? I have to show you guys this piece of art. Look at this. In honor of Deprogrammed is what it says. Here we go. Do you see that? Isn't that cool? I like it very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. There's so many talented people. I could never make this, so thank you for making it and sending it to me. Okay. Adam says Z is the basest Z. Kat says, I can't imagine paying $2,500 for a meal, let alone to be called a racist all night, right? And then not just called a racist for saying things that are not racist, like I want my kids to grow up in a colorblind society. You get called racist for that, but then they actually teach you how to become racist, and they tell you that they're making you anti-racist. It's the whole thing is crazy. Okay. Adam, fantastic. Are you wearing a Ukraine sweater in that bag? Oh, I don't know. Z, what was that? I don't think it was for you. I think it was just the colors. Funny. Okay, so we're just hanging out, and let's see, what should we I've got a couple things just about the holidays I could share with you. Let's start with deprogram things. So, like I said, we took some time off. I took some time off because um we've been working on the studio. It's not finished yet, otherwise I'd be streaming down there right now, and that's why I'm still in this temporary location. We are on the stage of we're on the floors now, finally, and, oh, I never I I never wanna every time I finish something that I don't like when it comes to renovating, I think I never wanna do that again, but then, of course, we will do it again because we don't wanna pay people to do it, we wanna save money and do it if we can do it ourselves and not have to hire, like, experts, then we wanna do it. So, I will have to do these things again, but I really don't like the mudding, so after my husband and our friend David put up the sheetrock, then my husband and I do I guess it's called the floaters and the mudding, and that's where you take the tape and you put it over the crevices between the pieces of sheetrock, and then you make the mud, and then you have to mud, and the reason I don't like it is it's so gritty. It's a tactile thing, that's what I don't like. It's like nails on a chalkboard, but, with the sense of touch. It's tactile nails on a chalkboard. I can't stand that feeling of grit, and then so that's you put all that up, and then you have to this is when the part I really hate, you have to sand it, and that's then there's dust everywhere, and it's all over you, and even though we put stuff down over the floors, I mean, it gets in every crevice everywhere, it gets out of the roo you track it into other rooms. There's dust up here, there's dust paths where we have walked, and I hate that. I hate the sanding. So, whenever we finish yeah, thank you, Bros and Bows, that's exactly what I hate. He says the sanding dust is the real issue. Ugh. So whenever we finish a part, like the mudding and the sanding, and then the ceiling, we had to do the ceiling too, then it's like, "Oh, great. Now it's smooth sailing." That was my least favorite part. And then, we painted, which I like. I like painting. Uh, but then the caulking. I forgot about how long the caulking takes because our house is very old, well, old by American standards. It was built in 1914. I know Europeans laugh at that and are like, "That's not old," but for us, it's old. And a lot of the baseboards and the trim, like basically everywhere a door or window attaches, there are cracks, and there are cracks between the sheetrock and the trim. And so if you haven't done this before, it's basically you take a caulking gun and first you have to double tape and make a little tiny crevice there, and then you caulk it, and I have found the finger method. I know people say don't do this, but it's the easiest for me is I just go and smooth it out with my finger. When we were doing white caulk on white trim, it was easier, but I maybe made a mistake. I should have asked Twitter. We have painted the studio this light blue color, same color as my old house, my old studio, if you guys have been around that long and remember that color. But the trim in this room is a dark brown stain, and it so I used a brown caulk, and that may have been a mistake because when I took the tape off, there's brown goo everywhere. I had to go through with a razor and then razor off some of the caulk, and long story short, I'm just trying to express you how long this took and how much I don't enjoy it. So, the caulking is now done. I do have to, continue razoring a bit and do a bit more touch-ups to try and fix the mess I made, but, um but that's done, and so now we're onto the floors, and, Texas Sheep Lady says, "Caulk should go on before the paint." What? That makes so much sense. Why do we do it the other way? Now that I think about it, and also clear caulk is the easiest. Why didn't I use clear? I have clear. Okay. Thank you for your comment. Really, you have no idea. The next room we do, I'm not gonna make the same mistake. I appreciate it. Uh, thank you. Somebody said hello from Sicily. Al McNeil, Happy New Year from Sicily. Well, Happy New Year to you. That's super cool. Jamie, thank you for the super chat for $3. Says Happy New Year, Keri. I hope you enjoyed the holidays. I did. I hope you guys enjoyed the holidays. So I was just detailing all the renovation we were doing during the holidays, and it was part of the reason I took some time off from the podcast was to work on that. And our goal was to get it done by the end of the year. Obviously, it's not done. We're on the floors now, but now my goal is to get it done by the end of the month. We have our church does a monthly feast, which is cool. The idea behind it is that you socialize with people from other church members outside of, you don't have a lot of time to socialize at church itself and to make deeper friendships and stuff because you're really just socializing the few minutes before you start and then a little bit after. And so one of the things our church does several different things. They have a men's group, a women's group, a youth group, but also we do these feasts, and it's a potluck at a different member's house. And so we are finally hosting one, even though our house is in the middle of renovation. We still do these house concerts and things, and we're going to be doing our first church feast at the end of the month. So that's my new personal goal, is to have the studio done by then, because we're going to have a lot of people here, and it'll be better if there's not, renovation still happening in one of the rooms currently, actively. Let's see, what else did we do for the holidays? Texas Sheep Lady, do the floors after the big get together. Why? No, I'm going to do them before. No, I'm not listening to that. I want to do them before and get them over with. Also, we have to do the floors in the music parlor. We still have never done the floors in that room. We Anthony sanded them, but we've never finished them. And I just want to do it at the same time and get it done. So that's the goal. Plus, I would like to be down there and streaming. I'd like to get the room done at the end of the month, so we can do the setup down there and get the camera angles figured out. And it's going to be much more professional than this temporary setup, which I like, but I'm excited for a real studio. So what else did we do? Okay. My husband is a musician. Some of you guys know that. Anthony Garcia here on YouTube. Not the murderer, the musician. And he usually does a Christmas show every year. If you've been to Austin, Texas, the Driscoll Hotel, which is one of the oldest hotels in Austin, and is a really beautiful hotel. He usually does a Christmas show there every year, and this year was no exception. So Christmas Day, we were at the Driscoll, and had my mother-in-law was in town, of course. We had a lot of fun. He also had a fancy show in Comfort, Texas. That was it was him on classical piano. But it was some classical pieces and a lot of traditional Christmas music and some German pieces. And that was him and his friend Sarah, who's an opera singer, and his violinist Megan. And that was just gorgeous. It was packed. Comfort is a great place for music, Comfort, Texas. I love going there. So that was really special. And I'd have to tell you a story about the Driscoll. I could do that since we're just hanging out and talking. Let's see. At the Driscoll. Okay, this was funny. But you know how it's just funny going out into the wild of life and interacting with people, because I meet so many wonderful people. I have so many great experiences, like the guy I met at the airport coming back from Content House. But then you also meet weirdos, and you meet people who have issues that they try to bring up with you, or they try to strong arm you or whatever. So I had this funny moment, and if Anthony were here telling the story with me, it would probably be funnier. But So he was on stage. He had just started performing or was setting up, and we were at his mom and I were at the piano because all the seats were taken in the whole place. And they have like 2 benches there with the piano. But his mom wanted to sit on one of the nice couches, of course. So we had our eye on this one, the best couch right in front of the stage. If you've been to the Driscoll, you know which couch I'm talking about. So there was a family there and we were watching them. We'd been there for maybe half an hour because he had to get there early to set up. So as we were waiting for any of the tables to clear, but we were really like, I hope they are the first to leave. So they got up and started to leave. And my mother-in-law said, go over there now. And I'm so glad she said that because I'm the type who I would have waited a bit longer, not to crowd them, let them get out of there, right? But she said, go over there now. So I go over as they're still collecting their things. And I start to sit down on the couch. And as they clear up and they're leaving, as this happens, these hipsters come over. Austin is full of hipsters now, full of people from Los Angeles and all over. It's sort of annoying going there now. Anyway, these 3 woke looking, in my opinion, I don't know, I'm making a judgment based on how they appeared, but these hipsters they sit down in 2 of the chairs. So it's basically a big couch, this area we're in, with a coffee table and then like 6 or 7 chairs. So a big group could fit there or multiple small groups, right? So we sit down, I sit down and I wave for my mother-in-law. Okay, now you join me. She was waiting at the piano just in case I didn't get the table or whatever. So she's like coming over to join me on the couch. Hipsters sit down and it's 2 girls and a guy. And the guy says to me, I'm on the couch and he sits in the chair next to me and he goes, excuse me, I think we sat down at the same time. And I said, oh, I was moving things around. I was like, oh, that's okay. I don't mind if you sit there. And I'm giving you this as an example of when people are trying to strong arm you or manipulate you or whatever. I knew immediately he meant he wanted me to leave. But this is a good tactic is you just play just as if you misunderstand them. So, hey, horny Alf, what's up? Good to see you. So he says, excuse me, I think we sat down at the same time. And I was like, oh, well, that's okay. I don't mind if you sit there. And he goes, no. And my mother-in-law's laughing. He's like, no, I mean, I think we sat down at the same time and we have a really large group of 7, I think he said. And I was like, well, there's a bunch of chairs here. Your group can join us. And he says something to the girls. And then he turns back to me and he says, I'm getting it out of order, but he says basically, I think the last thing he said was, no, well, our group is a group of 7. And I just said, well, I don't care. Okay. And then he wanted me to get up and leave. He wanted me and my mother-in-law to move, but he didn't have the balls just to say that. And also he didn't have, he was just a sniveling kind of manipulator kind of guy. Do you know what I mean? My husband said to me later when we were talking about this whole interaction, because after I said, well, I don't care. When he said we have a group of 7, I said, okay, well, I don't care. And then he stood up and then the real him comes out and he's nasty. He said some nasty things. I don't know. I tuned him out, but he basically was saying, oh, we're really nice of you on Christmas Day and, really nice. And I don't know, he was being a jerk. So I just said, well, Merry Christmas to you. And so they left. And rather than sit with me and my mother-in-law, these whiny hipsters went and sat at another table entirely, which is great. And then several other older couples joined us, and we got to have lots of great conversations with people who were there to hear my husband play. And that was great. So, but when I was talking about this with my husband afterwards, he said, was there anything that in that kind of social situation that a person could have said to get you to move? And I was like, probably not, because we wanted to sit at that table and we sat down first. We were waiting. Oh, that's what he said. After he said, excuse me, I think I think we sat down at the same time, and I said, "Well, that's okay, I don't mind if you sit there." And then he goes, "No, we were waiting for this table." That's what he said. And I said, "Oh, but so were we." And then he said, "Well, we have a group of 7." And that's when I said, "Well, I don't care." That's how it went. And then he stood up and was nasty. But my husband said, "Was there anything that he could have said that would have made you move?" And I was thinking, "Probably not." And then he said, what if he had been very, mm, rather than weaselly and manipulative about it in the way he approached you, what if he had just said, 'Hey, I realize you may have gotten here first, but I have a big group. Um, if you and your mother-in-law wouldn't mind moving, we'll buy you a bunch of appetizers, or we'll cover your meal,' or, what if he had done something very alpha like that? I was like, maybe. I don't know, but he didn't do that. There was nothing masculine about it. It was just this weaselly kind of, "Excuse me," like trying to make us feel awkward or something socially so that we would get up and say, I think he saw me and he's like, "Oh, a woman, I can do this on her maybe," or, "Oh, excuse me. We sat down at the same time." That doesn't work on me. Because actually I don't mind the uncomfortableness. If after I said I don't care, if they had stayed, that would have been fine. I can sit through 3 hours of you sitting next to me being weird and uncomfortable. The uncomfortableness does not bother me. So, but it really bothered him apparently, so he made a scene and left. But, yes, thank you, horny Alf. That's what this whole anecdote is about. I thought about it a lot afterwards because I was like, it's so interesting. Yeah, he was passive aggressive. Passive aggressive behavior is for the weak, says horny Alf. Yes. I would prefer it if you just say outright, "Hey, we were also waiting for this table. You and your mother-in-law got here first. What could we do to get you to move?" Like, just be honest. Um, let's see, who else is here? Tiny Texan is here. You guys, check out Tiny Texan's table. This is a beautiful soul who I know from my real life, my non-podcasting life, who also has a channel. And it's really good to see you here. Happy New Year. I hope you are doing well. Somebody said as I was scrolling through, I don't play obtuse games. Oh, Texas Sheep Lady. I will actually, because I think sometimes if I can read someone immediately as being like this person was manipulative or passive aggressive, I think it's funny just to play as if I don't understand them. And in that case, I love the fact that it cracked my mother-in-law up that, he was trying to imply one thing, meaning when he said, I think we sat down at the same time, he was trying to imply, "We sat down first, please leave." And I said, "Oh, well, I don't mind if you sit here," which is reading it as if he really meant what he said, that we sat down at the same time. That's when I like to use it. Um Bungalow logic. That's what bugged me about the show Friends. How do these a-holes always get the comfy sofa? Well, in this case, they didn't. They moved. Alan Scott, Carrie may play the game, but she plays to win. Yeah. My mother-in-law and I were not going to be moved. So that was just a funny thing that happened Christmas Day. Adam says F off back to California. Well, here's something I noticed. Also, I was in Austin a few times over the holiday break, and I was there yesterday, and my husband had an amazing show, but I was in a place I hadn't been to in maybe 3 or 4 years, and on Rainy Street. Those in Austin will know Rainy Street, and I looked up, and you're in the courtyard of this venue, right? And you used to be able to see all around, and now there's skyscrapers surrounding this completely, so much that it blocks out the sun, and 3 of them are currently being constructed and worked on, and 2 of them are brand new, and it's just high rises, high rises, high rises, and it's starting to feel like New York, where if you're in a courtyard, you can't see the sun, and not to crap on New York, I'm just saying that's not really what Austin used to feel like, and now it's starting to feel like that, like, "Oh, I'm in Brooklyn or something." And that was kinda depressing, just seeing all those high rises going up. And on this street in Rainy Street, it's changed so much, just even in the time that I've lived in Texas since 2016. So, 7, 8 years now, 7, 8. It's changed so much, but it also changed a lot in the time since I first started. I used to before I lived in Texas, I used to visit Austin a lot for work several times a year. So I was coming here for years, and in the past 10, 15 years, it's changed so much. And that's not even saying anything about, how much it's changed in the decades previous, because I know some old timers who tell me what it was like back in the 70s or 80s, and of course, completely different. Um, but now it's changing so rapidly. I'll go to Austin, maybe I won't have been there for a few months, and there's a brand new Target complex, downtown, or Whole Foods at the bottom, and mixed use corporate stuff up top, or condos, and it's just becoming a little metropolis, and I don't really like it, to say the least. So, I was thinking about the other towns that surround Austin, and there are a lot of towns that need based people to move to them. So, if you were thinking of moving somewhere, let's say you're not happy in whatever city or state you're in. If you guys know Gary from Neurotic, he's someone who moved to Texas from California. There've been several, Joe Rogan, there's several podcasters who've moved, Blair White, what's the, anarcho-capitalist guy's name? I forget his name, but you guys will know who I'm talking about. There's several of them who've moved here from Los Angeles or New York, and those are just the podcasters I can think of, but I'm sure there's lots of people moving. The based people, and when I say based, I mean reality based. Based in reality, you are welcome, and I hope you will come, because the culture of these places is changing, and so much so that the business owners sort of kowtow to this new religion, this woke religion, this identity politics religion. Um, and when I say woke, I mean specifically social justice ideology. The idea that the best way to look at the world is as a struggle, that it's a struggle for power between competing identity groups, and we need to redistribute the power until all the identity groups are equal, and the way you do that is by treating people differently based on what identity group they're in, like being racist towards them basically, or sexist towards them, or whatever, so that we can even out the power imbalance, like treating people differently based on their race or their sex or sexuality or whatever. I hate all of that. That's not liberalism. That's not what got us as far as we've come. This is what's taking us backwards. But so much of Austin has kowtowed to woke, and I'm starting to look at the towns nearby, like Georgetown, Texas, that are being infected with the same ideology. And it's only a matter of time until some of these businesses start kowtowing as well, not the people and the businesses. So here's a good example. Oh, I guess I knew that and I forgot. Rodzilla says Roseanne has moved here as well. That's cool. Roseanne, I think, is amazing. You can't really put her in any category. She just says what she thinks. I love her. So when we were in Austin over the break, one of these businesses that I saw, that it's a very popular place. I've been there, I had not been there for a few years, but I've been there before. They've added a sign now, and a lot of the businesses have these signs. They've got their entryway, like, imagine a barbecue joint or something, and it has, the old-timey Western font for their logo, and then underneath the logo, they've added to their sign, on their very sign, their welcome sign to the establishment, it says, "We welcome all races and sexes and genders and all LGBTQ plus AI," and I was just laughing afterwards. I was kind of joking about it with my husband, because it's sort of like a What's that story in the Bible where they put the blood on the outside of the door so they know, like, "Please pass over and don't do any destruction here." Like, they're putting the blood on the door of their establishment so the woke know, so the anarchists, the Antifa, the BLM, whatever, they know, "Don't destroy our business, please." I mean, because who in their right mind has to tell their customers in 2024, who has to tell their customers, like, "We serve all races here, in case you thought you were in the 1950s. Just so you know, black people, you're welcome to eat the barbecue here too." Duh! Gay people, I mean, they may as well just put a sign that's like, "We accept all of your money, gay money, black money, Latino money, women money, we accept all of it here. You may also come in and dine at our establishment." Why do you need that? Yes, 2 sisters, why is that a sign? Like, when I go to places, I assume you welcome all humans. Yes! Duh! And the thing is, it's not just a funny thing. I mean, I can make it funny, and I can laugh about it, and I have laughed about it here at home, but it's also serious because what you're doing is you are brainwashing little kids. You are brainwashing little kids into thinking they live in a reality that they don't live in. Think about that for a second. If this ideology is causing businesses, many of them, to say stuff like that, and for people to put stuff in their lawns, it's like, "In this house, we believe women are people." It's like, what does that say to kids? As if most people don't? As if most establishments don't welcome all races or gay people or what? Everyone does. Duh. And you may think these businesses, for them, it's just a little virtue signal and it costs them nothing, they think, to do that. It costs society something. It costs kids something. Everyone's saying Passover. Yeah, Passover carry LOL. Moses, the blood of the lamb. That's what they're doing, but woke. And I don't know, it's concerning. It's funny, but it's also concerning. And it made me think about I have an old friend who from childhood who we have gone different paths, right? Okay, so I became woke way before she did. Um, and it's funny because we're like two ships passing in the night. Around the time I started leaving woke, like waking up from it or after 20 years in it, around 2016 or that time period, she and I started talking again after a long time. And it was interesting because she was moving towards woke and I was leaving it. And so she's become since then, in the past 7 years, whatever, thoroughly woke. So much so that the last time we spoke online, she, who is white, was trying to explain to me how people of color, God, I hate when white people use that phrase, but okay, everyone uses it. So she says people of color, they fear when they go outside. And if they see a rebel flag, like the flag from the Dukes of Hazzard, right? If they see a rebel flag, they fear for their very life. And if they get pulled over by a police officer, they have to worry about being killed. And this is all bullshit. This is all hysterics. And if it were one individual who thought this, I would say there's something wrong with you psychologically, and you should talk to someone about this paranoia because it's not rational. But because it's a cultural phenomenon, it's like this whole if you're in this ideology, it's very likely if you take the ideology seriously, you will develop this paranoia. And so she has developed it. And it's not just one person, it's as a result of the ideology. But think about because she believes that, right? And she's putting this message out into the world. What is that teaching kids? What is that teaching young black children, for example? That they should fear, that they live in a world where they're supposed to be afraid to walk outside, that they might die because of their skin color. that if they get pulled over by a cop for speeding, that they're very likely chance that they're gonna die because they're Black. You are instilling paranoia into children, and if you're telling them they live in this world, and if you're telling little girls, for example, I've talked about this before, but all this similar thing, but all the messaging about how, like, girls can do science too, and, we're into STEM, and the future's female, and all this. I hate all this stuff because it's just like that sign that says, "Hey, in our establishment, we serve women and Black people and gay people." Yeah, duh, who doesn't? And for kids to read that, they're thinking, "Gosh, what kind of world do I live in where a business has to announce that they serve all people, all humans?" It's funny, but it's also serious because if you think that kids don't pick up stuff like that, you're wrong. They do. If I had been inundated with all of that women can do science and math stuff too, if I had been, a child when that programming was going on, I don't know if I would have made it to the science and math high school that I made it to. I don't know if I would have made it to Duke, because I think it would have infected me, and I would have started thinking, "Oh, I guess a lot of people think women are bad. We must be bad at science and math, that they're having to, like, do this extra encouragement for us." You know? I'm so glad, because for me, it was no big deal. Growing up in the '80s and '90s, it was no big deal. There was none of that futures female crap. Thank God. But this is all this all started because I was saying, "Oh, yes, so this is what Austin's like. They have these signs outside of businesses that say things like that. We serve all races here and LGBT plus, duh, ever who doesn't?" They have that going on, and I think that the surrounding towns are gonna start to pick this stuff up too. K-Dub True's here. You guys give it up for Chris Williams, K-Dub True. Really check out his channel also if you haven't yet, All Things Theology. I One of these days we're gonna have him on the Christian panel. It doesn't work with his work schedule, the time that we do it, but, he would have been he knows, like, he couldn't do this Wednesday, but you would have been great because he does such great breakdowns of some of the woke pastor stuff. Anyway, all of this is a big wind up to a pitch, and the pitch is, if you are reality based and you're looking for a new place to live, you're considering states to move to, I have friends who are considering moving. I tell them this, and I'm going to tell you guys this. If you found this video somehow, if you are reality based and you're considering moving, I hope you will consider Texas, and I hope you will help us uh, build up the reality based community and keep Texas Texas, and push this woke nonsense out. Keep it. I want to contain it to Austin, contain it to the one place, and then eventually root it out of Austin as well. But right now, we have to stop it from spreading out of Austin. So I can name lots of beautiful towns near Austin where it's not as expensive as Austin yet, but it's going to be. It is going to be. I'll tell you, that street I mentioned in Austin, Rainy Street. Again, if you guys have been there, you know this street. It's a bunch of old houses that have been converted into cute hipster bars, restaurants, entertainment venues. There was one house that's held out forever. And again, if you've been there, you know what house I'm talking about. I used to joke that Boo Radley lived there, but they held out, and it's dilapidated and falling apart. And it's kind of funny because it's surrounded by all of this opulence and money, right? And one of my friends told me this weekend, they said that person finally sold. They finally sold. That house is going to be converted, and they sold for $9 million. Now, this is a shack. If you haven't been here, you can't picture it. It's a shack. It's like you can see through the house in parts. 9 million. And we were laughing. I don't know if this is true. It's just what my friend said, word of mouth. It went for 9,000,000. Okay, we were thinking and that's I absolutely believe that if you know what's surrounding this house. Um, so oh, Patriotic Gestalt, good to see you. Thanks for the super chat, dude, for $10. I appreciate it. Thanks for supporting Deprogram. Okay, so this person though, who sold this house for presumably for 9,000,000. I was laughing because I was thinking, just think about all the years that because this has been happening for a while that Rainy Street was being turned into this really expensive, um, uh, you know, business kind of all these houses were becoming businesses and all this money was being poured into Rainy Street. And so think about all the time they were getting offers. And I think at one point, are they the ones that had the sign up that said we're not selling? There I've seen several houses like that. I can't remember if they had one of those signs or not, but anyway, they're getting hit up all the time. And whoever their friends and family are, they're like, "You should sell." And I was thinking about all the stages they had to wait, right? Where imagine when they got offered, I don't know, 3,000,000 and they're like, "No, I can do better." They just kept waiting. They just kept waiting. And then again, at some point somebody's like, "Okay, 6,000,000." They're like, "Nah, I'm gonna stay on my check for a bit longer." And then wait, I missed 2 super chats before that one. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Thank you for telling me, Redzilla. I'm rambling too much. But they waited and they were I will find them. Give me 1 second. Um, they had patience and they got it up to 9,000,000 and then they sold. Okay, so we were just curious about some of the towns around us, right? And they're not that crazy yet. However, if you could afford I will say this about if you're reality based and looking for a place to live. If you could afford to buy a property, if we could afford to buy another one, we would. We just can't right now. But because this whole area is going crazy. I mean, there's Tesla in Austin, but there's Samsung's building a plant. There's all of this new construction, um, houses going up like in what used to be farmland. And so the value of your property is going to go way up. And right now, it's just I'm afraid it might be woke Californians buying a lot of it. There are whole ranches. This is kind of sad. There are ranches and farms and stuff near us. And I was looking at some of the property for sale uh, near us, and there's farmland where they're selling like 30 acres for three was it 3,000,000 or something crazy. Um, I think it was 3,000,000. That was the highest one we saw. And so if you go on there, you'll see this whole area is 1,500,000. And you look and it's just a mobile home and then a bunch of cornfields, like all the land. And so farmers are selling. There's people selling. If you want a ranch and you're reality based, come out here. But that's not all that's for sale. That's the land. The old houses and stuff, like the one we got, you can still get them in all these surrounding towns for really good prices. They're going up, but they're not Austin prices yet. And I feel like we got in at a really good time. It's still a good time in the area. We chose an area that's not really developed very much yet with all the, fancy businesses and things. And yeah, I think you should move here. That's it. That's my pitch. But not if you wanna change it. Not if you wanna come in and make the businesses put up signs that say, "In our restaurant, we serve Black people." Like, duh. Okay. Really, I question you if you have to put a sign up like that. I think more people should I did not complain, but I think more people should complain. I think they should ask to speak to the manager and be like, um, whose idea was it to announce that you serve Black people here?" Like, what did you was it was this a punishment of some kind? Were you not serving Black people before? "No, no, we were." Then why did you have to put a sign up? Like, why? Okay. I've got a couple of super chats that I missed. You're right. Thank you, Redzilla. Redzilla for $5. Thank you so much. Says, "When using The finger method with caulk. Dip your finger in a glass of very soapy water, and it works so much better. Happy New Year. I gotta do that next time. I did not do that. Thank you for the tip. I learned another tip last night you just made me think of. I made venison chili because a friend had given us some ground venison, and I found this great recipe, but I cut the poblano peppers, and somehow I I didn't I've cut poblano peppers before, and this has not happened, so but apparently this happens so much that afterwards I looked it up, and a lot of sites were saying, "Make sure you wear gloves when you cut poblano peppers." I did not know to do that. I've never done it before, but somehow I got the pepper, the inside part, the seeds or whatever, on this part of my finger, and then the rest of the night it was burning. It was burning so bad. I thought it was gonna burn me up from the inside. I couldn't go to sleep. I tried ice. It burned through the ice, and I finally looked up what to do, and one site said put olive oil on it, which did not work, and then another site said milk, and milk is what fixed it. I had to just put my finger in a glass of milk and fall asleep because it wouldn't stop burning. It was awful. But there you go. If you get pepper on your skin, milk. Deranged lunatic, DL, for $1.99. Thank you for the super chat. Says Keri, the Patriot nurse, would make a great guest. Thank you for the guest suggestion. I'm currently booking people right now. Let me just write this one down so I don't forget. Somebody else has mentioned the Patriot nurse. I am not familiar with this person, but I know the name because someone else has suggested them. Thank you very much. And thanks for the super chat. Anyone you think is interesting that I should interview, let me know. I think that's it. I think I got all of them. Redzilla says, I'm going to campaign to get Keri on Megyn Kelly. Megyn would love Keri. I would love to go on Megyn Kelly. I would love to talk with her. I saw, what was the first interesting thing I saw that she posted? It was something, it was a year or two ago. I saw her tweeting something about women and femininity and about feminism. That's what it was. And I really liked what she had to say about it. And then, of course, my friend Joseph Massey, the poet, has been on her show. And yeah, I think she'd be someone interesting to talk to. So who knows? Y'all nag her about book club now. Okay. Book club. We're doing it. It's been too long. It's been too long. We're bringing back book club. I mean, we already read a book for the Christian panel, Two Sisters and Some Yarn. Why, if I had been more on the ball, we would have just made that book club book for that month. We're bringing it back. And I've got 2 books currently that I have to read. One, it's a favor for someone. They want a blurb for the book. So, I guess I shouldn't say who it is until it comes out. I don't know. Anyway, I'm reading that one. But the other one's already out, and I have to read it. And so maybe we'll make that the first one. But if you have suggestions for what you think should be the first one, the one that I have to read is actually Neil Shenvi. Do you guys know him? He's a Christian. He's on Twitter. I've wanted to talk to him for a long time, and he has a new book out called Critical Dilemma. And I feel if this makes it to him, I just want to say, I mentioned early in this show, I don't make it to my mailbox very often, so I don't know how long it was sitting there. But he sent me the book with this cool coffee Yeti mug thing, and I just got it. It's probably been there for a month or 2. But I would love to read that book with you guys instead of just reading it by myself. So maybe we could do that as the first one. It's called Critical Dilemma. But if you have other ideas, let me know. Kay Debtree says, I know Neil. Oh, well, cool. Well, if we do book club month and we make that the first book, we could have a discussion about the book, and then we could also have Neil on. We could do 2 episodes basically, or we could do the discussion and have him come on at the end. How about that? And do a Q&A. That might be fun. Somebody says Melanie Mack might be good. Thank you, John. We have talked about doing something already. and we're just waiting till after the new year. So that's you guys are helping me look, we're getting work done in this silly episode. I have to follow up with her because we haven't set a date for anything, but yeah, she wants to come on. I really like Melanie. I've been able to meet her in person, and I think she's lovely. Let's see, who else? Adam Carolla would be good. You probably have some mutual former acquaintances. No one's ever suggested him before, but why not? Isn't he's very base now, right? I think he was part of that documentary called Safe Spaces or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's a good idea. Blair White. I know Blair. I've never had her on the show. She's a very busy person, but it can't hurt to ask. So thank you. Lord Blackcross. Does anyone know if Miss Smith's Subscribestar page is still active? I saw the last post was March of 2022. Yes, it is active. I don't share the posts there. I don't reproduce them there. I guess I should. I guess I should just reproduce them from the other places. But in terms of if you want to contribute to Deprogrammed, you can do so there. And I got to get better about saying that. If you want to contribute, and I really appreciate it, you can do so at, let's see, Subscribestar, Patreon, Locals, or here at YouTube. Those are the 4 places. And yeah, I wouldn't be able to do like what we're doing right now in the studio, renovating it. That's from the people who support the show. You know, that's all of you guys, and I'm so appreciative. That's from super chats. That's from, do you know what I mean? Thank you for that, because I don't know. I'm just very grateful for it. And I support shows that I like to watch. So you can do so for as little as I think $1 a month, or I think on Subscribestar you can even just do a one-time tip if you want. John says, Keri and Forever Gothics, you two share a birthday. That's right. So we have had Gothics on the Christian panel. I've also interviewed her, and she has a new documentary out that she messaged me about, and I have got to do a post for her or something. So let me write this down. I want to see her doc. I'm very excited for her, and that would be a good person to have back for sure. She's so fun to talk to. Two Sisters in Some Yarn says, here's all the links. That's where you can find out how to support the show if you want to. Did you make Wreck This Journal? No, I haven't gotten this question in a while. That's another person with my same name. It's spelled the same way too. It's different Keri Smith. She's Canadian. And I have read that book. I think she's very creative. And we share a friend in common, weirdly. You know how small this world is? And so that friend got her to like sign her book or something. I have a signed copy of her book. The other Keri Smith. The crafty non-political. She probably really hates that we have the same name. I don't know. Oh, that's someone I've talked to. And yes, we've also, thank you, Cheeky Mayor, Bridget Fedesi and I have talked several times about doing something together. And it just so far hasn't worked out with either of our schedules, but I'm going to follow up with her. I would love to talk to her, not just because of culture and politics and stuff, but you know, she's the person who got sober before I did, and her story really impacted me, reading about her story of sobriety. And I would love to talk to her about that. I thank you for all the great suggestions. Radix verum. I don't know who that is. I've never heard that before. Radix. Is that something I should write down? Is this a trick? I'm going to write it down just in case. Radix verum. Toe Jasper says, "Why I looked on Wikipedia and I thought that was you." Aw, are you joking? Aw, no, that's a Canadian. Wreck This Journal. I like her books. Yeah, but that's not me. I'm the deplorable Keri. I'm kidding. I'm not. I get called all kinds of things, you know. I'm sure I've been called deplorable. Okay. Oh, this is a good question. Oh, I love this. Okay, I've just bookmarked a question. And but first, Alan Scott says, "How is Mystery Chris doing? I miss pop culture, Mystery Chris. I miss him too. He has family stuff going on. That's all I'll say because it's not my story to tell. And I don't know if he wants to talk about it publicly or not. But, life is going on. And so I miss him too. Leave a comment and let him know how much you miss him and you're thinking of him. And I hope we get to see him on the show again soon. I hope I get to see him in person soon. Okay. This question I want to get to, but first, I was going to make a quick recommendation before I forget. We spend a lot of time talking about the stuff in entertainment that has become crap that we don't like, the woke stuff, the stuff where this ideology is infiltrated and it's sort of preaching at you. And there's a lot of that. But whenever there's something good that we watch, I want to talk about that. That's something Mystery Chris is great about, talking about the good things. And my husband and I have been watching a show. I don't know how old it is. Maybe we're late to the game. I have no idea. We started watching this show during the break, the holiday season. It's called Joe Pickett. And we'll probably like it because it's, it's all Western hats, cowboy hats, and boots. And the Joe Pickett is the character's great because he's a strong character. He knows the difference between right and wrong. He's masculine, but he's also an average dude, and he just knows the difference between right and wrong, and he wants to do right. And he's a dad and a good husband and a good dad, and I love there's a mystery in each. I don't know how many seasons there are, but we just started watching season 2. He's a parks ranger, and so somehow he ends up solving a lot of crime because the cops in his town suck. If you watch the show, let me know in the comments. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's great. Somebody says, let's see. Oh, sorry. I don't know what's happening in the chat, but what is Two Sisters and Some Yarn talking about? Question. I don't know. Anyway, if you've seen Joe Pickett, let me know what you think of it. But I love this show, and if you haven't, I recommend it. Is it on Netflix? I think so. I think that's where I ended up paying for Netflix again. I was using my friend's account for a while, but I think it's on Netflix. I know another folk singer. I love the first episode of that show. Okay, thanks. Someone else also enjoyed it. It continues to be great. If you continue past the first episode, I really liked it. Okay, here's the question I was going to do. This is good for a Q&A. Keri from Born Again. I'm going to show my ignorance. I don't know how to say that word. Barian. I don't know how to actually pronounce it out loud, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I don't know, right? Somebody can tell me how. Keri, if you don't mind sharing, I'm curious to know how you met your husband and your thoughts on marriage when you used to be woke. How has being a Christian influenced you in marriage now? Well, this is a great question. It's a long answer. So let me think about how to hold on. I'm tagging a comment about Joe Pickett. I'll think about how to answer this one. And put it back up here so I don't forget the whole question. How did you meet your husband? Oh, well, that one's easy. So we met the old-fashioned way, and someone's telling me, by the way, I should pronounce your name Berean. Thank you. Like burrito, born again Berean. I met my husband the old-fashioned way at a bar. So he's a musician, and he plays a lot in Georgetown. And there was a while where I don't talk about my gig jobs a lot because even though they're it's not like, being canceled from a career, right? But I still don't wanna lose these jobs and have to find another one. The great thing is if I ever do, I can find another one, but, why make it easy for people who want to cancel me? So I don't talk about them a lot, but I can talk about this one because it's in the past now. I was working for a while at a winery, and, this is in 2019, and it was great. I got to meet a lot of locals that way. I learned a lot about wine. Of course, I enjoyed working there because when I started working there, I was still an alcoholic, and I want the best, and we had the best wine, and so I was learning a lot about wine and also getting a lot of free wine. And that's a joke, kind of, do what you love, right? And so that was one of my gig jobs for a while, and I met him there. He was also, this is before both of us quit drinking. He played a lot of wineries as a musician, still plays a lot of wineries. And I had heard about him through several of the locals. People were always suggesting him for music and actually talking about him, you know, on a different level from other musicians. And you really have to check this guy out, kind of thing. And I was always like, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of musicians out there, especially we're very close to Austin. There's a lot of musicians in Austin. It's like, okay, I kind of didn't pay much attention to it. So the night he came into the bar, the winery, I was like, oh, this is that guy everyone's been telling me about. And people had even given me his card. And he came in and I was thinking, oh, he's probably full of himself, because I don't know, because he's a musician. But he went over and started playing piano, and it was beautiful. I loved it. I was listening to it while I was working, and we ended up talking that night. We were still drinking then. Both of us got really drunk. Uh, but, that night, yeah, that's how we met, and then we started dating, and I was a pretty new Christian, and so I was sort of actually at the beginning, I was hesitant to date him because he was agnostic, and I was a little, like, controlling in what I thought God wanted for me. I had reached that place in my life where I realized, "Oh, hey, I don't always know what's best for me. Sometimes I choose the wrong thing." If I go based on the heart, my pastor said during a sermon yesterday, "The heart's deceitful," and it's not enough to say, "Just follow your heart," right? And I had reached that point in my life where I realized my heart was deceitful sometimes and I made bad decisions, and so I wanted to start doing what God said. And however, I was a little bit, controlling in what I thought that would look like. And so at first I was sort of, "No, I'm only dating Christian men." And I, I was a little bit, at the beginning reticent to date him. I called him the musician. If you guys remember my old podcast, we used to call him the musician when I first started dating him. And, I'm so glad that I did, and that my opened my mind enough and my heart enough to say, maybe I don't know what it looks like when God is saying, "This is for you," right? Um, Two Sisters and Some Yarn has his website up there if you wanna hear his music. He is phenomenal, and I don't just say that because he's my husband. He's actually once I heard his music, I was like, "I get it. I get it." What all those people were saying was true. He's incredible. Um, but but yeah, I was a little Spike Manna says, "Keri used to be so closed off. Thank God for her husband." Yeah. Well, I had a certain idea of what it was gonna look like, and, so I had to journal a lot, and I prayed a lot because I was very much, "I don't know. I don't know about this." And I've learned a lot in, just a few years with him. So we met in 2019, and I've had so many life lessons that God has given me and what things that he's taught me. We've had rough times already and gotten through them and learned more because of it, grown because of it. We've renovating this house together. And we did a lot of things that they say don't do when you first get sober. We got sober together, okay? We quit drinking together. There was a period at which he broke up with me for 2 weeks. How dare he? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But that was necessary. And, when that happened, I think we had been sober for just a month or a month and a half, and I knew then I wasn't gonna go back to drinking. I could tell, and that was crazy because I had tried to quit so many times and had failed, and I could have easily gone back to drinking, um, and I didn't. And I remember praying to God at that time, and and journaling about it and stuff, and I was sort of, you know, my heart was broken, and I was hoping that there was a greater purpose for God putting him in my life. But even if there wasn't, I remember saying to God, even if there's not, I get it. I understand. Like, you put him in my life to help me quit drinking. And that alone is a miracle. That's a miracle. And even if that's the only reason ever, that's enough. Thank you for that. Selfishly, I would like for there to be a bigger reason, but I'm okay with it if there's not. And thankfully, there was a bigger reason. And that helped me understand, by the way, that the Abraham and Isaac story. You know that story? It's about I didn't understand that story for a long time because oh no, he's here. Did you hear me talking about you? He's Oh yeah, I would love some. Thank you. Uh oh, I'll send you the link. Speak of my husband, he says he'll join. I'm gonna send him maybe join. I'll send him the StreamYard link. Hold on. Anyway, the Abraham and Isaac story. I've had to learn this lesson several times. I didn't used to understand that story before I was a Christian, and even after I became a Christian. That was one of those stories. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible I still don't understand, of course. That story, I was kind of like, why would you want to worship a God that tells you to sacrifice your son, and then at the last second, it's like, don't worry, you don't have to. Um, I didn't get it. Okay, I finally got it. And I've had several chances now where God's like, help me learn what that story is about. And I think what it's about is God wants you to be willing to sacrifice everything, anything for God. Meaning God is at the top and your husband, your spouse is below. And then, your kids and etc. But at the very top, the thing that's most important is your relationship with God. It's always God. And you shall put no other thing before me. It's God. And I have a habit, I guess. One of my habits has been putting my husband above God sometimes, or the person I've dated or what have you. And I had to learn that lesson of like being willing to lose something and to sacrifice it and put it on the altar for God. And then sometimes God says to you, it's crazy. This has happened to me a few times now. Once you're there and you're willing to sacrifice that thing, God's like, okay, you don't have to. But you were willing to. Does that make sense? It's really like I don't know if I'm explaining it well. If you're a believer, I think you'll know what I'm talking about because you've probably had one of these lessons yourself. And maybe we all have similar things that God's trying to teach us that we learn, and then and then you connect it to scripture and you say, "Oh, I get what that was about." You know, don't make an idol of anything. Don't make an idol of your marriage or your husband or your boyfriend or a relationship or anything like that. Um, and yeah, I've had to learn that several times. Bros and Bows says, I'm not a full-fledged believer, but that makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's almost as if the lesson is, if you are a believer, right? Let's say you had a job that you think of as your dream job and you love this job, but it's bad for you. And you can tell it's bad for you, but you think it's important to have it. Maybe it's prestigious or whatever. I don't know. I'm just coming up with a hypothetical. And maybe at some point you realize God wants you to sacrifice that job maybe, or be willing to, and you have a hard time doing that. You're clinging to it, right? Maybe it's bad for your faith for some reason. Maybe it's a job that's requiring you to tell lies or something. I don't know. But I think God wants you to get to that point of being willing to let go of it. And then you'll find out if you actually have to or not, but making peace with letting go of it. I know I haven't finished answering your question, born again, but let me let me see if here we go. Keri, the Bible takes a lifetime to understand. We all start behind, but God makes up the difference. I don't know if I don't know if you'll ever understand it actually. Thank you, John, for that comment. I think you're right. The My pastor, speaking of the sermon yesterday, he read a line from St. Augustine's Confessions. And basically it was a line about how anybody who thinks that they completely understand God doesn't know God. Like, it was sort of, I'm gonna boil it down into a Keri speak. What he read this great line. Of course, it was very eloquent and, um, it was more articulate than that. But what it boiled down to is if you think you have God all figured out, if there's no mystery there, then it's not God. So, I thought that was a great quote. If I've missed anything I need to have commented on, let me know. Here, Jamie, I'm gonna come back to your question, born again. Jamie has a question. When you quit drinking, did you go to rehab or AA or something like that? Just asking, and I mean no disrespect. I don't mind you asking at all. Um, so I went to AA for a little while. I did not go to rehab or anything, but I went to AA. My husband didn't. He didn't need to. Everyone's different. I say that because I think sometimes people also get very controlling about how they quit, and you got to do it this way. And I don't think that's true. If you're having trouble quitting, I would definitely recommend AA. It helped me immensely. I went for, I'm not even sure how long. I went from I quit drinking October 27th of 2019. And I went until they shut AA down because of COVID, which was probably March of 2020. So, um, my husband came with me to one after that, which was cool, but I got a lot out of it. And one of the things I learned in AA was about how some people I think it helps to think of it this way, alcoholism or whatever your ism is sort of a symptom of the real disease being wanting to control everything and feeling a lack of control and how you deal with that. And for some people, it's alcohol. But I think AA is helpful for everyone for that reason, because it's really about learning how to be in the world and not being able to control things. And I learned so many great things from it. And let me tell you, I have a friend, she did the AA route. She's been sober a long time, maybe 20 years. I don't know. It's a long time. And she called me up this weekend and apologized to me. She said, "I have to make an amends to you for something." She was sad, she was crying, and it was something old, and it was a long time ago, and I don't even well, I mean, when she brought it up, I remember I was like, "Yeah, I've been waiting for" No, I didn't say that. I said, "I don't even think about that. I've already forgotten and forgiven that. I don't We're good. We've been good since then. I love you. I have things I should make amends for then, right? To you, probably? But when I don't I don't hear people do that enough. Do you know why that comes second nature to her? Because she's been in AA for so long. And what a great thing. I don't get that a lot from people who haven't been through AA, that kind of thing. Um, if you've never called someone and made an amends, you don't have to call it that if you've never been to AA. But if you never called someone and offered them a sincere apology for something that you probably owe them an apology for, you should try it. I've done it. It's good for your soul. It helps you resolve things in yourself. And maybe it is one that someone's been waiting on and they are shocked. Hey, I'm sending it to you now, babe. And they're shocked that you did that, that you made that amends, and they're touched by it. So there are things like that AA can teach people that I think it's useful for everyone. Okay, I got to send this to Anthony. He might join us. Here's the link. He can tell you about the baking he's been doing. Okay, let me come back. I'm going to save. I've seen some of your comments and your super chats about Joe Pickett. I'm going to save those for when Anthony's here. He's going to join us in a minute, maybe, because he also loves the show and we can talk about those together. I'll go back to this for a second. Born Again says, how you met your husband. Okay, I told you that one. Your thoughts in marriage when you used to be woke, and how has being a Christian influenced you in marriage now? Okay, so I was married before. I'm divorced. My husband also was married once before. And in my previous marriage, there's a lot that could be said about it. That's a whole nother thing. And speaking of making amends, there are some amends I still need to make. But I made a lot of mistakes, and I didn't want to repeat those mistakes going into my marriage with Anthony. It was very different, because when I got married the first time to a wonderful man, but we didn't have a shared belief system. I was woke. He wasn't really woke. I mean, he was liberal, but he wasn't really woke. Any degree of, I kind of influenced him in some ways, I guess, but he was more clear thinking than me. That's for sure. But everything about me was woke. He would come with me to some protests, like the anti-war protests and stuff, but not like to the big ones. But he wasn't doing all the activist stuff I was doing or anything like that. And he was more just a normie, a very smart normie on the left. Anyway, we didn't have a shared belief system, though. We didn't have a faith. I didn't believe in God. We never really even talked about it that much either, from what I recall. We were both kind of agnostic. We called ourselves agnostic. And so when life comes at you and you have problems, like I said, I've already been through some hard times now with my husband, and we've come out on the other side together. When you go through a hard time, or you go through any kind of trial or trauma or family stuff or medical stuff or job loss stuff or financial stuff, whatever it is, or relationship stuff, whatever it is, if you don't have a shared foundation, I don't even know where you start. Because even with a shared foundation, I can feel really lost sometimes and have to thankfully rely on uh, the advice and counsel of Christian friends to help me get through it, of my pastor, of elders, of turning to scripture and prayer and just faith. But if I didn't have that, and I wasn't aware, like, we've learned enough now to know, okay, this is what we should do in the future when anything arises. Like, we have a shared belief system, and you go to that. And I didn't have that before. So when life hit us in different ways, I I didn't know how does the secular world teach people to deal with stuff? There was no roadmap, really. And also the secular world teaches a lot of things that are the exact opposite of what you should do. Like the exact opposite. And now being a Christian, deciding to get married, I knew when I got married, not only did I not want to repeat mistakes in my first marriage, but also this time it was very meaningful. It wasn't just, there's the love aspect. I love this person. I want to be with this person the rest of my life. That's amazing. That's great to find that, right? But it wasn't just that. It was God was involved. It was, I am making a lifetime commitment to this person. I'm attaching myself to this person. We are becoming one. It meant more. And I think the secular world trained me and has trained people to think, even when they go into it saying, "Oh, I'm so in love and I love this person. I'm going to be with them the rest of my life." But they always have, but they always have that, but maybe divorce kind of, like if necessary, right? And this time I was like, no, like if I make a lifetime commitment, at least in terms of the oath I am making in this marriage, I am making this in seriousness. The vows you say, they mean something. Don't say those unless you mean them, right? This is what I think is wrong with marriage. The way marriage is viewed now culturally, it's stripped God out of it. So a lot of times I look at people like Kathy Griffin's getting a divorce, right? And I shouldn't have made this joke, but I did because it was the first thing that popped in my head is her COVID lasted longer than her marriage. It did. COVID lasted longer than Kathy Griffin's marriage. So they're getting a divorce, right? And if you why did you get married? I don't really I don't I don't mean to be rude, but did you think through it? Was it just like, "Oh, I love this person. I wanna spend the rest of my life with them." There was nothing else there? This is how the question I'm responding to is how do you think of marriage differently because of Christianity? So allow me this atheist. This is how it's changed the way I think of it. I think of it as so much more than just the heart says I wanna be with you forever. It's the word also, it's the word, and then the word, the vow, it means something, and then following that up with action. I don't it's kind of rambly, but I hope that makes sense. John says the heart is fickle. Yes. And, when I got married, I very much viewed it as an oath that I'm taking before God and my friends and family, but this oath before God that I am pledging myself to this other person, that we are becoming one flesh and that it means something. And the heart is fickle, and the secular world teaches all kinds of crazy stuff about what you should do, uh, about how you should live your life now. I mean, I just saw this one. Okay, let me see if I can find this. I saw this post on Reddit of all places, right? Do you know this popular board there called "Am I the Asshole?" And people post questions and for advice, right? Where they're like, "Am I the asshole for doing this or whatever?" And so I saw this one. I don't know. If, I probably can't. I won't be able to find it like this. I didn't have this queued up. I didn't know I was gonna. Let me just summarize it for you. This is a great example of what I'm talking about. And there's tons of posts like this and people in the secular looking for advice in the secular world and living by the rules of the secular or the things that the secular world says that will be good for relationships and people, and they're just completely backwards. This guy said, he was asking the forum, "Am I the asshole for not accepting my sister's daughter as my niece?" I was reading this like, on its face, that sounds weird. Like, why wouldn't you? It is your niece, right? And then I read the question and I was like, wow, no. And he basically said, hey guys, my sister who's in her 40s, she divorced her husband 5 years ago because she realized she's a lesbian. And they had 2 kids, ages 5 and 7, and she was having an affair with a married mom at her kid's school, my niece's school, and so she had to change schools because the affair got out and it was a big scandal. And so then she broke up with that married mom, of course, and then she met a woman, let's call her Sherry, who was also divorced and single mom and moved into the house with her daughter. And so then she started telling everyone that that girl is also that woman's child is also her child, and she encouraged her 5 and 7-year-old to call that girl their sister, and that I should treat that woman's daughter as my niece. But then the relationship only lasted like 8 months, and she broke up with Sherry, and so the 5 and 7-year-old lost their new sister, moved out. Then she became the third part in a polyamorous relationship, a married husband and wife, and they moved into he says, into my sister's house with their 2 kids. Okay. That lasted for 2 years. After the first year, the husband broke up with both of them and moved out. So now it's just the woman and her 2 kids and his sister and her 2 kids. And they're all calling each other siblings, all the kids. And then she starts seeing the first woman, Sherry, on the side again. So she breaks up with that woman and kicks her and her 2 kids out. So now those siblings are gone, and she moves Sherry back in. And now she's getting married to Sherry, and she's upset that I'm not calling Sherry's daughter my niece. And it's like, it's only been 8 months this time. And I'm reading this question. Yes, thank you, John. Confusing kids is evil. And so I was like, this is effed up. And no, not only are you not the asshole, but your sister is a complete narcissist, selfish, entitled person. And the thing is, the world doesn't view this as that weird. The world says, "Hey, do you, and your kids are you need to be happy so you can provide a happy home for your kids. You need to do you, even if it means introducing your kids to all these temporary siblings that they are abandoned by. That you divorce their dad, you move in first a woman and her kid, then you move in a married couple and you're having sex with them, and you move their kids in, and then you move them out and the woman back in, and like, your kids don't know up from down. They're going to be in therapy. They're going to be messed up for the rest of their life because of your selfish, narcissistic choices. But hey, that's what the world tells you to do, right? It's all good, right? That's a bit of a rant, but yes, confusing kids is evil. Okay, let's switch gears. Andrew says, I'm confused. I was too. I was trying to, and at the end of it, here's the crazy thing, Andrew. At the end of it, the guy was asking, am I the asshole? Because he had sent a Christmas card and he had just addressed it to his niece and nephew, his actual niece and nephew, his sister's son and daughter. And it was actually thanking them for something they had, just the 2 of them had done. And his sister got upset and was like, you didn't include my fiance, my new wife, and her daughter in the card. And he's like, what? And I'm like, not only are you not the asshole? That's not even the issue. Your sister's focusing on this card, and it's really about like what a crazy mom she is. She should never be a mom. She's a terrible mother. Terrible mother. Okay, I'm gonna be switching gears here. We've got a real treat, ladies and gentlemen. I have a special guest back by popular demand. Kidding. Since we're just hanging out today and having fun on this New Year's Day, please welcome my husband, Anthony Garcia Music. Hello, Anthony. How are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello, hello.
I can hear you. I can see your Towns Van Zandt poster back there. It looks great. Yep.
Yeah.
You hear me
Sounds like
rant?
it sounded like a really wholesome New Year's Day message board on Reddit that was going on.
It's terrible. Uh, Anthony knows that I read way too many ridiculous boards. I want to see what's happening in the world and the state of culture. And wow, you will see the underbelly on Reddit. So, hey, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. It's better than me just sitting next to you and being Yoko Ono
Then
on
sitting
your
up here, you mean?
yeah, than sitting next to you at your desk. But
I
I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody, and glad y'all are watching. It looks like there's quite a few folks out there watching, and looks pretty. Happy New Year. That's it.
Happy New
Bye.
Year. Take care. See you later. I'm kidding. Adam says, "How's it going, Haas?"
Well, how's it going, Adam Morrill? Adam Morrill with some hieroglyphics after your name.
And you're still sober. Kudos.
I think you said, "Are you still sober?" Oh, it does say, "Are and you're still sober?"
Oh, well,
Question
he
mark.
might be. I think he's replying to someone else, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Or maybe he means after reading the Reddit board, I'm still sober.
Oh, I see. I see.
I don't know. Oh, look, this is a great question. You want to read that one?
Do you ever perform in Houston? Would love to see you live. As a matter of fact, wow, funny you should ask. We're playing. My band is playing in Houston on March 1st at the Mucky Duck, which I believe is downtown somewhere. But the Mucky Duck is a cool venue. I've never actually even been there, but I'm talking about it like I know about it. But it's a venue to play. It's a little difficult to get into, and there's some very. It's a cool place to play, and it's a nice place to get into. And we got in, so we'll be playing there, Houston, March 1st, and it's my band, and the band is very, very good. So I'm very excited about. I'm not saying that because I'm in it. I'm saying it because individually as players, they're all. I mean, it also makes it great because I'm in it, but no, the band, as individuals, they're really wonderful, and I'm very proud to bring them to Houston. So yes, we'll be there in Houston. Anybody in the Houston area, March 1st, Mucky Duck, 9:30 p.m.
I just pulled it up. Another folk singer. Thank you for that question. I'm so glad you asked because we should have plugged that specific show out of all of his shows on this New Year's Day thing, and I would have forgotten to do so. So I appreciate it. There's the info there on Anthony's website. It's anthonygarciamusic.com. But yeah, I'm very excited for this Mucky Duck show also. So if you're in Houston, hopefully I'll see you there. Let me know if you're coming. You can get tickets on anthonygarciamusic.com.
Somebody says Mucky Duck is near Joel Osteen's church. Is that really?
Probably. Doesn't he have his church is huge, right?
Doesn't he have
Probably
multiple
everything
churches? Oh, that's right. Because wasn't it during one of the hurricanes, Hurricane Katrina?
he
He
didn't
didn't
let
open his
people
church.
in.
Yeah, he did. Okay, yeah, I remember that now. Maybe it was
Yeah.
Katrina or must have been Katrina.
Yeah.
He didn't let people in.
His church is huge from what I understand. So
Yeah.
it's probably near everything in
Everything's near
Houston.
his church.
Oh, she knows that room. She says
Yeah.
it's a nice room.
Yeah.
Okay. Here, I have a question for you, and then I have some super chats to read with you. Bros and Bros says, any tips for finding work as a musician post COVID?
Not really. I mean, it depends on where you are. I mean, Texas, where we live, it was actually people were very eager to get back out and hear music, and venues were actually very eager to uh, open back up and have customers and make money. So it wasn't a problem here. I mean, the lockdown or the venues being closed, at least in the greater Austin area, like outside of the city. Let's make that distinction. Outside of the city, they were very eager to get back open, and they kind of were just they. I don't want to say they didn't care, but they were more apt to kind of let any sort of worry about any kind of spread of a disease get in the way of them operating their business, which I was very in favor of. So yeah, it really depends on where you are. We didn't have any problem here in Central Texas. I know Austin was having a lot of problems, and some venues are even still using it as an excuse to pay musicians less than they did before COVID, which is also a problem for a lot of musicians, and it's a
And
problem for me.
a lot of venues went under
Yeah, a lot of venues went under.
in
A
Austin.
lot of venues went under, which is very it sucks. But my my strong feelings, my ill feelings are towards the venues who are doing great, and they use COVID as an excuse still in 2024, still use it as an excuse to pay musicians half or even less of what they were paying before COVID because of COVID, because they're just, they're having to tighten their budget, and business isn't as good, and which is a lie. I mean, the business is fine for a lot of them. And some of them have just completely are continuing to function as businesses and have just gotten rid of music. So, anyways, to answer your question, I think it's just, if you were already playing before COVID, just kind of go back to whatever you were doing. And I mean, if you're living in a city, or I can't really help
Get
out with
out of the
that.
city.
But yeah, definitely get
That
out of cities. I mean, the cities are for music, in my opinion, are just are not. They're just never a good idea to be able to make money playing to doing any art, making money doing any art or anything creative. I mean,
they don't
cities are overrated.
cities are overrated, and there's so many musicians who flock to these big cities that a lot of times the venues won't pay very much or at all because they have so many people to choose from, and they don't really care about the quality of the music at a lot of the bars and stuff because they're just sort of, well, people aren't here to hear the music. They're here, they want the music as a background thing
Yeah.
while people drink and talk, and so they're not willing to pay for it. So finding work as a musician in a city, I think, is a lot harder than outside.
Although I did have 3 gigs this weekend in Austin, so and that was pretty cool,
That's
and they
true.
they did pay, and it was with a band, so that was really
Those were
those
good
were
gigs,
actually
though.
those are few and far between, though. I mean, where the venue will pay a full band to come play, and it wasn't a ton of money. I mean, I make more money on my own as a solo artist, but, they were last minute, and it was they were fill-in gigs, and it was fun. I got to see some old friends, as some old friends I hadn't seen in a long time, and play with the drummer that I hadn't seen in years, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that's you know, this week this weekend had some last minute gigs pop up that paid a little bit of money. But yeah, for the most part, not really that great to play in the cities. Somebody is asking about LaGrange and Round Top. I hadn't heard of Did we hear about the Festival Hill in Round Top? It's called Festival Hill in Round Top. Rohan Meadery, no. But those sound cool. That'd be fun to get to. We went down to
No, I
Round
should
Top
write.
a year ago.
Let me write this down. I've been to Round Top for the big antique fair. We went
Mhm,
with Anthony's
mhm,
mom.
mhm.
And if you don't know about that, that's cool. It's like basically all these antique dealers from around the country descend in this little Texas town. Used to be once a year, now it's twice a year. And they put up big tents. It's like like you would imagine a festival, but instead of music, it's all antique dealers. And you just go from tent to tent to tent. That's where, remember, we found the vampire killer kit.
Oh yeah, that was
We found
crazy. That was
some
crazy.
crazy stuff. Anyway, I'm writing this down because I didn't know. I've never heard of the Rohan Meadery.
Is that
Meadery.
like Riders of Rohan, like from Lord of the Rings? Oh, it is Rohan Meadery. It must be Rohan Meadery. I
Yeah.
was kidding, but it probably is. Probably does have to do with that. I was just watching the Fellowship of the or not the Fellowship of the Ring, the Return of the King this morning. I've been
That's
watching
why
I've been watching all the Lord of the Rings for some reason. I don't know why. I love the Lord of the Rings.
it's good. It's good to put it on to he's like, "Do you mind if I watch some Lord of the Rings when you start your show?" Why would I mind? Go watch what you want. Okay. I have a couple of, speaking of things we're watching, when you weren't here, babe, I was telling them about.
I heard you talking about Joe Pickett.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that.
Okay, Andrew Joyner for £5, 5 lira, 5 British lira, says Joe Pickett is on Prime Video. Oh, is that where that must be where we're watching it? Don't normally recommend movies, but Leave the World Behind on Netflix is very good. It's about a cyber attack on the US. Okay, hold on. I gotta write this down. Leave the World Behind. I will always take recommendations for good entertainment because there's so much crap on right now. Thank you for the super chat, Andrew. And then Tay Jasper says, "OMG, Joe Pickett is a great show. It got canceled now." What? Why does everything we
Man,
get in?
no more TV show. Okay, the next show you get me into, we're checking to see if all the seasons are out. If it hasn't been canceled. This happened
What?
with somebody else's recommendation, who I'm not going to mention on your
Pirate.
show. Yeah, with Deadwood.
Pirate recommended Deadwood, and we started watching it 15 years too late, and then we had to suffer the disappointment of it being prematurely canceled alone because everyone else already went through that disappointment 15 years ago. But I didn't know that, Tay. I didn't know. I didn't want to look it up. I didn't want to know how many seasons there were and if it got canceled or not. That sucks. It got canceled now, by the way. It was based on a book of the same name, and it was so awesome. I loved it. I didn't get around to watching season 2 before it was canned.
Not
Well,
reading the
so
book.
we're not.
Not reading the book. It's going to get canceled.
It's really good. Um, okay, I already answered that question about AA. Davina says, "Does the baby raccoon have the money in the wall?" Um, Look, let me tell you about the raccoons.
Keri killed the raccoon and she's wearing it on her head.
I killed it. That's not true. I tried to catch the raccoon, and I put out a live trap, and I actually caught 2 stray or neighborhood cats. I let them go. And then the third time, instead of using fish, duh, cats like fish, somebody in the chat suggested using peanut butter. Sometimes I need people to tell me the most common sense things. So I put peanut butter in the live trap, and the raccoon is so smart. He reached in there and took the peanut butter and didn't get caught. I don't know how he reached all the way in there. He would have had to climb in there craftily, and he took the peanut butter. I found the container on the other side of the house. And so we never caught the raccoon. However, at a certain point, Anthony figured the raccoon's gone out of the walls. Let's seal up the holes. So we sealed the holes up. And then I started hearing noises in the walls again. And I was thinking, oh no, the raccoon's in there. It's going to die in there. Now that it can't get out, this is going to be terrible. But it's not a raccoon. Here's what we've surmised. One of our neighbors said something to me the other day about our black cat. And I said, I don't have a black cat. What are you talking about? And she said, well, you may not think you have a black cat, but you do. And there's apparently a black cat that hangs out around our house all the time. And I have seen but that there's a lot of stray cats here. So I don't pay attention I haven't noticed one more than the others. And I don't see this cat a lot, I guess, when I'm outside, because usually when I'm outside, I've got Tiger with me, and Tiger chases cats off. He's scared of them. So anyway, long story short, I was going to this fancy show, Anthony's Comfort Show, and these 2 black cats, 2 of them, I hear this loud cat fight, this screeching happening, and I look out. I'm on the 2nd story like I am now. I look out the window, and they're outside the window on a tree branch, and they're fighting in the trees like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. They're way up. 2 cats. It looks unreal. I'm going to find the picture and show you guys. And so then I realized, so after that, I'm starting to put 2 and 2 together. Then I was out and back one night, and we don't have skirting on the house yet. This is something we're doing starting January. And you can see where we had the foundation fixed and everything. You can see under the house, you can see all the heating and air ducts and everything. And I was out there and I heard this sound. It sounded like a creature crawling up into the house. I don't know how else to describe it. It sounded like something moving the air duct and crawling not through the air duct, but I think there's an entry under our house, and I think it's the cats. And I've since heard them having a cat fight in the walls. We heard them having a cat fight. So long story short, I don't think there's a raccoon in the walls anymore. I think we have 2 black cats who hate each other in the walls at the same time.
Someone said Crouching Tiger, Hidden Kitty.
Oh, that's great.
I want to call it Grouchy Tiger, Hidden Kitty.
Why? He's not grouchy.
Yeah, he is.
This is a good time to tell you guys that tomorrow's Tiger's birthday. Anthony.
It's an inside joke because I chose Tiger's birthday for him because we don't know when Tiger was born. And Tiger and I have sort of this relationship. He doesn't think I'm his real father, which
that's not true.
He started it. He doesn't think I'm his real dad. So it hurt my feelings, and I'm a Scorpio and I hold on to things. So I've resented him ever since. And so now every chance he gets, he takes jabs at me with very abusive language. I am an innocent bystander in this situation. And anyways, so Tiger didn't have a birthday, so I thought it would be really funny to give him a birthday. So I designated the most boring day of the year when nothing is happening. It's the most gray, dismal, boring day where nothing is happening. Nobody wants to be thinking about being awake or going back to work or going back to school.
And people are going back to work.
It's January 2nd. It's like Thanksgiving. It can fall on, well, it's not like Thanksgiving. It's January 2nd. It's Tiger's birthday. So I'm sorry. It's the first, you're right. It is the first Tuesday of the year. It is the first Tuesday of the year. It happens to be tomorrow, January 2nd, Tuesday, January 2nd. when everybody is done with the holidays, they're still hungover from New Year's Eve. They've had a great time over Christmas, Thanksgiving with their friends, and they're back in their cubicle in their fluorescent light, and it's so
Do
depressing.
you guys hear how this
And
is he's
it's
so me
and
and Tiger have this and it's gotten so out of hand now. Maybe you guys do this with
and
your pets.
nobody's in the mood to celebrate anything. I mean, nobody wants to celebrate. They don't even want to celebrate their own birthday, let alone a little rodent's birthday who's and so that's Tiger's birthday, Tuesday, January 2nd, the most boring day of the year. So keep him in mind, or don't keep him in mind.
And if
It's
you say anything about like Tiger, don't listen to Anthony, he's being so mean, then he will make Tiger talk, and Tiger says horrible things to him. It's true. And it keeps me entertained for hours. I don't know why it's so funny, but it is.
it is.
It's just funny. Also because of how much you love Tiger, but then when we're out in public, people sometimes don't know that you're joking when you try to sell him and stuff, and people are like, "Are you really selling your dog?" No.
But anyways, yeah,
Scott
tomorrow's
Miller.
Tiger's birthday, and we have cats on our wall, and I'm thankful that cats are here, that because they're keeping the rats away. There they are. They're keeping wow, that's crazy.
Look how high up they are. And they were having a full-on cat fight that high up in the trees. It is crazy. Okay. You're thankful we have cats?
Yeah, because they're keeping rodents away, except for Tiger.
That's true. Except for Tiger. Yeah. Davina says 2 males. I have no idea, but they've been fighting, and they've been fighting in the walls. And at some point, so I've told you guys about our renovation in the studio, the Deprogrammed studio in my office. After that's done, we're going to start, or maybe before it's done, sometime now in January, we're actually we decided rather than wait, we need to do the exterior of the house, the balcony and stuff. So we're taking out a loan, and we're going to do that because it needs to be done before it gets worse. The inside's great. The bones are great, but the wood outside, we need an update, and we need the balcony to be redone. And so we're doing that now, or about to do it. We're going to have a company do it for us, and we'll be doing the skirting and fixing all that. So I figure in the process of redoing the balcony and the exterior and the skirting, we're going to find out what's in the walls and seal up any entryways, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, and maybe find some gold.
Maybe find some gold.
I'm waiting for the day we find gold in the walls. Some coins.
John says that forced perspective makes them look like pumas. It's crazy. That's like, I just took that from the window, and I couldn't believe it. I'm glad you guys I didn't know if it would translate into photo, how insane that was. They're so high up. And they're just up there like, yeah, like Crouching Tiger and Kitty having a fight. Okay, what else? Oh, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew B, for the $5 super chat. He says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, sir. You guys tell me what your New Year's resolutions are, what you're up to. We did our sunrise hike, which I'll also plug this, I guess. I don't talk about this enough. I do have a Substack, and if you want to subscribe, it's free. And then here, let me show you this one. I did write an essay about creating new New Year's traditions. And I talked about in that a little bit about here it is. So it's kerismith.substack.com. And I don't write that often. It's not like you're going to get inundated. I know some people do a Substack a day or more than one a day or whatever. You won't get inundated. I'm going to start doing them more regularly, but it's not like a crazy number. But it's just essays. But this one was about New Year's traditions, and I mentioned in there about doing the sunrise hike, and it was part of an essay I wrote about tips for people who are new to sobriety for New Year's Eve. Somebody had asked me This is probably a good one to bring up with you here, Anthony, also. Somebody had asked me online to share this message about, and it was sort of telling people, hey, don't offer people alcohol on New Year's Eve because you don't know if they're sober or not. And it was sort of a warning to people not to offer sober people alcohol. And I thought the message was good, but it's not really what I would suggest. And so I'm glad they tagged me because I ended up thinking about it and writing this essay. But what I told them in the thread and what I wrote about was, if you are newly sober, you can't control other people. So you can only control yourself, and you're going to get offered alcohol. And yeah, it would be great if people didn't offer it to you, if they know that you're sober trying to be a dick or something. Thankfully, I only ever had 2 people do that. Most people, when you get sober, they're happy for you, they're encouraging, or they don't care either way, which is great, but they're not, like, resentful, trying to get you to drink again. Only 2 people were like that with me, ever. Very few and far between. But most of what's gonna happen is you're gonna have friends who forget that you're sober and offer you alcohol, and they don't mean anything by it other than a kindness. They're not trying to harm you, they're not trying to get you to fail, they just don't remember. And you shouldn't take offense to that. You just say, "No, thank you. I'm sober, remember?" Or whatever, or I just say, "I'm sober." And, the other thing is you're gonna get strangers offering you alcohol, and we probably get offered alcohol more than most people because one of my gig jobs is still around alcohol, and you, as a musician, get offered alcohol at a lot of your shows. Sometimes your fans offer me alcohol. And so I was saying, if you're newly sober, don't be afraid. You should think about what you're gonna say when people offer you booze, and don't be afraid to tell them you don't drink. You have nothing to be ashamed of for quitting drinking, nothing. It's the opposite.
Mhm.
So, I had a list of things I said, and you gave me a good one, but I usually just say, "No, thanks, I don't drink," and if they say, "Why?" "Oh, why?" And I say, "'Cause I'm an alcoholic," and then that usually makes them laugh because it's like, "Duh." I don't know, and you just say it so easy, right? Um, then I had, like, some that are jokes, because I used to be a professional drinker, but now I'm in retirement, but I always tell them I'm sober, I don't hide it, and one good thing that comes out of that is I've had many people pull me aside later and ask me about how I quit, and that wouldn't have happened if I'd been afraid to say I'm sober. So, I was just sort of giving advice to people about how to do a New Year's if you're new to not drinking. Yeah, and you have a good one that you say, "I'm allergic."
Yeah. I always say I'm allergic. Or ask if they have Everclear. They're
Why do you
like,
do that?
"No." I
No.
don't know, I just,
Yeah, he does. He'll be like,
like
"No, d"
I'm just like, "No." They're like, "No, we don't have Everclear, ha ha." And I'm like, "Well, okay, I guess I'll just settle for some water."
What would you do if they took you seriously and they were like, "Yeah, let me get you some?"
I'd run away. But, the person who commented was trying to get you to share their article about not bothering people, not offering sober people alcohol. I mean, it's like, whose responsibility is that to worry about who's sober and who's not? I mean, why? I mean, they're trying to make everyone worry and be responsible for being sensitive. I mean, it goes back to so many other things that we have to be sensitive about nowadays. Why put that burden
Yes,
on people? I'm not going to put, and
exactly.
as a person who's sober, I'm not going to put that burden on anyone. Just, we're all adults.
Yeah, and you'll get used to it the longer you go without booze.
Yeah.
It actually was good for me because it reminded me of what it was like at the very beginning when you first quit,
Yeah.
and now I don't even think about it much when people offering me alcohol and stuff. It's like, I get offered
Mhm.
alcohol weekly, so I don't even think about it. But back then, I think, yeah, I guess some people they're, like, embarrassed to say, "I don't drink," or I think young people, it's probably more maybe they feel socially uncool if they're young and
Mhm.
sober.
Mhm.
And let me tell you, young people, we're all, even you, deeply weird people. It's okay. It's okay that you're sober, who cares?
Yeah.
It makes you interesting,
I mean, it
actually.
can also be weird for adults too. I mean,
Yeah.
adults are very, there's a lot of peer pressure in adulthood too. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of people who are, you know, they have friendships based on things that they do, or they have friendships based on things they put in their body, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not it's unfortunately it's that way. When you build your friend
Yeah.
circle, it's based on that. Um but yeah, that's a good article. What you wrote is a good article. I think brings up a lot of good points there, you know,
Things
good
you can
advice to
say.
people. Yeah.
And I like
I think the bigger problem is what people eat. I think that's an even bigger problem. I mean, it's amazing. What amazes me, as you know, what amazes me is how stacked everything is against us. Especially in this country, how stacked everything is against our health. About to go. I don't want to go off too much on this, but I think just in the
do it.
context of drinking, the context of abusing substances, the context of smoking stuff and drinking things that just temporarily alter your state of mind, but they can give you these long-term health, that can be disastrous long-term to your health. Even setting that aside, let's just say you're sober and you decided to quit drinking stuff like that and quit smoking stuff like that. We're still fighting a battle, a daily battle for our health. We're fighting a daily battle for our health, especially in this country. I don't know how it is in England or Canada. I'm sure it's the same way in Europe, much less than the United States. But the United States food industry is either has it out for us / is in it to just make as much money as possible by keeping their costs low. Most businesses are, um, but the government turning us just either being bought or just turning a blind eye to it, or
Yeah.
letting them just get away with it. And so many things have just become commonplace in our diet that are deadly to us. And that's the bigger problem is what we're eating. The bigger problem is what is in our food. And I know that most people in your audience don't. I mean, I know most people are aware of this. I mean, a lot of this is relatively new to me, although I've been paying attention for some time now. But um, it's just especially getting into things like, as you know, like seed oils, the things I've been reading about lately, and the things that you and I have been trying to avoid. Exactly. Someone just says mentioned seed oils. I mean, that's just probably the biggest culprit in our diet. All in addition to the commercial flour,
High fructose
all-purpose
corn
flour, high
syrup.
fructose corn syrup. I mean, all these things that are in. I mean, something else that I've given up to, in addition to alcohol and all that, are of course soft drinks. I mean, soft drinks are just, and I don't want to judge anyone that does that. That's fine. If you want to drink Cokes, go ahead. I mean, but energy drinks, soft drinks, fast food. I mean, those are just to me those are the no brainers to give up. I mean,
Mhm.
the other ones that are the harder. The difficult thing is when you're trying to be healthy and you're being lied to on the packages, and you're being lied to about you're being lied to about what's in sometimes the ingredients aren't even fully listed. There are rules when an ingredient is below a certain percentage that it doesn't have to be that it doesn't technically have to be listed. So there could be things in your small traces of things, but they're still there. But the game that I like to play, as you know, Keri, is when we go to the store, I like to see what has seed oils in it.
Yeah.
and trying to find something that doesn't, trying to find a food that doesn't. And I remember how depressed I was, and I was like, man, I got to give up tortilla chips. I got to give up chips and salsa. But luckily we found a
We
brand that
found a brand that does
yeah,
avocado oil
yeah, we found a
chips.
brand that does avocado oil chips.
Siete. Is it Siete?
They're called siete, which means in Spanish it means 7. And they're based in Austin, and they make all their products with avocado oil. And I can say this randomly: I'm going to be that musician who tells you I played a gig there, but I did. I played a gig. Hey, I played a gig there. I played a gig over there. I played a gig
You
over
did
there.
play a
No, but
gig there.
I really did play a gig at the Siete factory during COVID. It was the weirdest gig, if I can tell a side note, because they called me up. I don't know how they got my name, but they had this event where they had a mailing list. They sent out an email to all the people on their mailing list, and they gave away a bag of goodies. They gave away a couple of bags of chips, some sopapillas, like some buñuelos, like a bunch of different, and like some taco mixes, and it was really cool. But the funny thing about the event is that since it was happening during COVID, it was in the parking lot, and I'm sitting there, and it was a 6-hour gig, and I'm sitting there
Yeah.
playing outdoors next to this tent, and people were driving it was like a drive-through, and they were picking up their bag and they were leaving, and everybody was masked. People in the cars were masked.
So
The people that,
everybody's in cars, masked,
yeah, it was
just
so
driving
it was
around
maybe
you,
it was
and
one of
you're
the well, they were driving right in front of me, so I was just like the guy playing as they were driving, like in the drive-through window, and it was really funny because people were getting out of their vehicles and coming to me and giving me money, like tipping me. So they would go through the drive-through, get their bag, and then they would stop at the curb and they would run back and like, thank you for your music, you're so good, because they could hear me playing as
the
they
whole
were waiting
time.
in the line, which was I don't know how many I probably got some pretty bad, and I inhaled so many fumes. Who knows what kind of disease I have now from back then. But what's interesting is I talked to the owners afterwards and took a tour of got to go in the facility. And they're legit. I mean, they're a family from here. They're a family from Austin they've just expanded. And I think they're really staying true to their to the basically the reason for them starting that company was because their daughter had celiac disease, and she had she's actually legitimately born with a disease that she can't handle the proteins in flour, and none of this, what has been diagnosed as celiac. I think there's real celiac, and then there's what they're diagnosing as celiac now, which isn't actually celiac. It's actually an allergy to the chemicals that are put in the flour. I'm probably talking way out of my league right now, but this is what I've heard. And so for that reason, they started this company, Siete, to specifically for her. They started making old family recipes, old family tortilla recipes, old family chip recipes, and all this stuff.
I found their website.
Yeah,
Somebody said they can't get them. Well, they do have a website, and it looks like you can order here.
and we're
And
not, and this is not
we
sponsored
do
by
not
them.
have any
There's no sponsor there,
sponsorships.
but this is just, I'm just saying we found a company that, they make
This
stuff
is
with avocado oil, and avocado
yeah.
oil is a great oil. I mean, it's actually a fruit oil. So you have seed oils and fruit oils. Well, avocado oil and olive oils are considered fruit oils, and those are actually that it doesn't take a lot of oil, a lot of energy to extract the oil from that fruit, as opposed to seed oils. When
Wait a
you're trying
minute.
to
I have to interrupt you. Andrew says $33. Is that how much they were on the website?
was it for a whole set of stuff?
I don't know. I didn't look at the price. They're not that much at the grocery store. I mean, we have these in Texas at the grocery store. Oh yeah, look, that bag of chips is $40.
No, it isn't. No,
Yeah.
it's got to be a set. How much is it really?
I mean, it looks like it here. Let me add it back up. Oh, 24 bags,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
$40.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. The one on the right, look at that. I thought that was $40.
Well, that's a 6-pack of bags for $33. That's 6 bags for $33. That's still
That's still a lot.
how much math? How much is that? To carry the one divided by
Wait a minute. Oh, that's not 24 bags. Oh yeah, 24 1-ounce bags for $40. Okay.
If you're in Texas, they also have them at Costco, and they're $5 for giant bags. We found those
Oh,
too.
yeah,
Costco.
you can get them for regular prices at the store. I had never looked at the website for it. We really don't have any sponsorships at
The
all.
point is you got
Siete
you're
chips.
fighting this
Yeah.
when you're not even talking about alcohol. You're not talking about cigarettes. Just, I mean, we're not talking about giving up the obvious things. I mean, you're still fighting this battle against seed oils, and it's like, oh my god. Remember when I was telling you about that guy Luke Rukowski? Luke, that's good.
Let me cut in for 1 second.
Yeah.
Anne Pinkova. Hello, Anne. She says, "Hey." Anne is from Politically Incorrect Knitters, by the way. You should
Oh,
go
cool.
and check out her channel if you guys haven't seen it. She says, "I know those chips. I saw them in the hippie section of the store. I took a picture because the logo is very knittable." Yes, it's a very colorful label. I didn't get to finish, babe, when I was saying before, we don't have any sponsorships,
Yeah.
but we're not opposed to them. And if you are Siete Chips, we enjoy your chips.
Send us your chips.
Send us even giving us a bag of your $40 chips would be great. I'm kidding. They're not.
Yeah,
Not 40.
I mean, they're not cheap. I'm not gonna lie. When you go to the grocery store, yeah, somebody's like 5 ounces times 6 bags equals $33. Yeah, I mean, they're expensive, but they're also made with avocado oil. They're not made with seed oils and organic sunflower oil. I mean, those oils are poison. Those oils are poison to the inside of your body. So it's like, I think it's either, if you just maybe eat them in moderation, then that's probably. But yeah, I mean, it's not cheap. That's for sure.
Bros and Bros says Owen Benjamin's been saying for years that food will always be available, but nutrition will not be.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. And also, Anne says you should write them and ask for a sponsorship. That would be amazing. I just always assumed that no company would sponsor me. Who knows though? Maybe they would. There was something else. Let me just real quick. Where was it?
I think they're on the other
Jennifer.
side. They're on the other side of the sports ball from maybe what you talk about.
Oh, they're probably leftists, right? Yeah. I don't know though. You never know. There's a lot of base
I'm pretty sure they are. I think they
hippies.
are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jennifer Atkins says, I'm an herbalist. I've been educating about such things since the 90s. Jennifer, if you're still in the chat, are you the Jennifer that I'm supposed to interview about such things and you emailed me and I have not replied? If so, I apologize. And if you're not, send me an email at deprogrampod@gmail.com and introduce yourself. But there is a lady I'm supposed to be talking with about herbalist hippie things and natural foods. And if that's you, I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you, but I'm in a booking stage right now. I'm actually taking care of a lot of people that have been waiting on
Yeah, she
a
said yes, she
schedule.
is. She said yes,
That's
she is.
you?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got the calendar right here. Just put the date in the chat.
Okay. I'm
No,
telling you what.
that'd be awesome to have her on. I mean,
Yes. That's
that's
going to happen.
you got to do that. You got to talk about this because it's just so. Can I just say my favorite quote from that guy, Luke?
Yeah.
That dude, Luke, what's his name? Rakowski?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure people know who he is. I love that guy. He's smart and he's pretty funny.
He's on Tim Castellat.
Yeah, he's on Tim Castellat. And he's really into all this as well. And he's one of the things he said was like they're trying to lower men's testosterone. Men with low testosterone are easy to control. That's why they're trying to lower your testosterone by making you consume more soy, veggie burgers. They're trying to attack your testosterone with seed oils. They're waging a war against your testosterone level. They're waging a war against your balls.
You love this quote.
It was so funny. I was like, it just caught me off guard. He was on the live cast, and I thought it was funny. I had an LOL moment all by myself. I was mudding your ceiling. I was sitting there mudding the ceiling, and he said that, and I just doubled over with laughter. I just wasn't expecting him to say that. It was just
so waging.
He was so serious. He was so serious when he was passionate when he was saying all this. He just
had a
waging a war against your balls.
You had a LOL moment, laughing out loud alone.
Lola, yeah.
Lola.
But anyways, that's I didn't want. We can stop talking about that, but it's just true. that we have so many things that to think about, and
we don't have to stop talking about it. Look, let me just show you from the chat. Everybody's what you're saying is resonating with people. Davina says less processed food. And Pinkava says Anthony's gonna preach. LXP says bad food is cheap, good food's expensive. I'm in England. Well, let me say this, LXP. I don't know about England, actually. I don't know at all. So I'm not going to speak to England. But here in Texas, it is good. You are going to pay a little more for healthy food for some kinds of things. Like those healthy chips are going to be more than Lay's, but you're paying for a little more. I don't mind paying a little more because it's good for me. And it's not going to contribute to me may possibly going to an earlier grave. And also maybe not being able to do some of the things that I want to do in old age, if I continue to eat crap. So I'm willing to pay a little bit more. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that much more. And I used to spend that much and more on things that are bad for me, other things that are bad for me that I've given up. And, it's just a matter of allocating where you put your money and rearranging things. But the other thing I'll say, and maybe this is different than in England, is you can find healthy food that's not expensive. If you go to the farmers markets, if you buy from farm, like you can get fresh veggies and you can even, depending on where you're at though. So we live in a place where there's a butcher like close to us, and we see them right now. They're dressing deer out there all the time, and you can get venison. They have, chicken, beef from local farmers. There's a ton of local farmers here. So it just depends on where you're at. Now in a city, if you're in a city, yeah, it's probably, don't you think? more expensive.
I think in the cities you have a greater advantage, like you said, you have advantages of farmers markets. I would think in
Uh,
cities you have things that are more readily available. Um, and also, to that point, there are things you can do. I mean, I mean, healthy food is expensive and cheap food is not expensive. I mean, you could also argue that cheap food is not even food, and expensive food is. I mean, it's more expensive, but it's also your health. I mean, you're thinking about if it is more expensive to buy things that are good for you, look at it as investing in your long-term health. And sometimes, by my more cynical friends, I always get the argument of like, well, we're all going to die anyway. So what, who cares? Like, just why are you eating healthy? Or, sort of that argument. But it's like, well, I want to be 75 years old and I want to be able to walk up and down stairs without breathing heavily and without, I want to be able to walk up and down stairs. I want to live pain free. And if it takes a couple of extra dollars to do that now in my late 40s, it's just worth it. You're investing in your body. You're investing in your long-term health. So I think that's something I always keep in mind. And that doesn't mean you have to go and spend $33 on a bag of chips per se, but you can spend a couple of extra dollars on like good olive oil. You can buy grains in bulk. You can plant, if you live in an apartment, I mean, you can plant, small herbs. You can have a small garden, a tiny greenhouse of herbs
or little things
or
like grass-fed butter instead of
exactly.
margarine or
Right,
the
right.
fake.
Don't use things like margarine.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things you can do if we just put like a little bit of effort into it and make as much food as you can at home on your own and make it ahead of time and freeze it and things like that. I mean, we've also been milling our own wheat, which has been really life changing. And there's an upfront investment for that from our sponsor, Nutriment. Just kidding. We don't have a sponsor.
We don't have a but we would like
But we
one.
would like a sponsor.
What's the name of that mill?
It's not Nutrimill. It's the other one.
Anyway.
I'll think of it in a second. Wonder Mill.
Wonder Mill.
Wonder Mill, if you're listening.
We love you, Wonder Mill. No, but we Anthony got this and he's so excited about it. And then I've started baking things with him, and it's I thought it was gonna be a lot more complicated than it is. Last night I made a cornbread and we used fresh milled flour. And you love the cornbread, right?
It's great. So good. And the thing is that food is meant to heal us. Food is on this planet to heal us, and it's to give us nutrition and even to heal any diseases that we have, not to give us diseases, not to make us sick. And the food industry has just turned it into this disease machine. It's a disease machine. It's what it is. Commercial food is a disease machine.
Well, and then you have the healthcare industry, the medical industry, which is all about, they're not about preventative medicine. Why would they be? That's not lucrative.
Yeah.
They're about, let's wait until you're sick and then let's treat the symptoms once you're already sick. And oftentimes, let's give you medications that then cause other problems, and then you got to take medications for those. I was talking to a family member recently who's on like 5 different medications, and some conflict with others. And one medication is because of a problem that a different medication caused, and this was, it's like, gosh, it sucks. And I'm like you. I don't want to be in pain as I'm old, and I don't want to have to be. I don't want to have to do that. Hopefully, knock on wood. I don't want to have to be on that many different medications. So,
yeah.
So I'm willing to go on this journey with you is what I'm saying. And you know that because we've talked about this, because you're my husband and we've been on this journey together. And so, even when was it? I had to run to the store last minute, try and get something. And I looked at, Anthony was making cookies with fresh milled flour. And I was looking at the store at, it's a little convenience, like a gas station, and they don't have any powdered sugar to make icing with. But I just happened to I just was curious, and I looked at the containers of icing, that I used to use when I made cakes, like Betty Crocker and crap, and I just and
Betty Crocker and all that kind of crap.
Well, I mean, it's delicious. It was really bad for you. And before you started talking to me about this stuff, and I started paying attention to it. Anyway, I looked at the back, and the icing was like the first ingredient was high fructose corn syrup. I'm like, that's crazy, And then it was funny because this one said vanilla artificial flavoring, and it's not even. Wait, you don't even use real vanilla? Like what?
mean, you could probably make that at home in a second. I mean, even though I did ask you, in fairness, I did ask you because I was in the
Well, you
middle of it. I
asked
was like,
me
if you got
what
something, just pick something up at the store.
yeah.
But in reality, we could have, if we thought ahead of time, we could make something that didn't have all these,
Yeah.
all this poisonous stuff in it. But to talk, I don't know if people know about these books, but there's actually one really great book that I've been reading that talks about a lot about this, and it's called The Ancestral Diet. And it's by Dr. Kenobi, kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's his last name. I forget his first name. Talking
Hold
about
on
all
one
this.
second. I'll go
Yeah.
grab it.
It's you know where it is. It's on that
Yeah.
behind you on my
I can't hear you once I take these out.
okay.
FYI.
We're giving away Tiger tomorrow to the pound. We're taking him to the pound tomorrow. Unless anybody wants to buy him for 50 cents starting now. Bids are starting right now. But that book is a really great book. If you haven't heard of it, or if you're interested in if you're interested in anything we're talking about and you know less than me, I know nothing, but if you know less than me and this is something that's piquing your interest, I'd highly encourage you to go get that book, or to just read, or I'm sorry, listen to any of his podcasts on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And that's a wonderful book. There's also there's a food scientist named Sue Becker. She also makes her she's the one who's very much into a big advocate for milling your own wheat. Sue Becker is her name. And anyways, those are some.
Did you try to sell Tiger while I was gone?
What? Yeah, as soon as you took your headphones off,
I knew it.
It went down to 50 cents, and I think Pirate Tomsky wants him.
No. Look, he's so tired, guys, because we went on that sunrise hike today for New Year's, and he's just passed out. He's like, it was the best day of his life. And now he doesn't even want to be up here. His eyes are closing while I'm holding him. I'm going to let him go back to his bed. It's like, oh, I've got to go to sleep now.
That's all he does is sleep.
Here's the book you were talking about.
Yeah, The Ancestral Diet The Ancestral Diet Revolution by Chris Kenobi. I was right. Wow. Interesting book. Talks a lot about seed oils. And he is I'm gonna get this wrong, but he's like a diet anthropologist, and they've studied different indigenous groups of people all across the world, and their diets. They're different diets. Some of them are carnivore. Somebody mentioned the carnivore diet. Some of them are completely carnivores with hardly any vegetables. Some of them are or eat no meat, and they only eat vegetables. Different parts of the world, all different continents, different climates, different environments, and they study the problems that they have. Of course, most of them with no seed oils. Some of them on their ancestral diets with no seed oils, and then studying them as seed oils slowly creep into their diets because their transportation improved and they were able to go to town and go to grocery stores and bring them back to their villages, or they just somehow started using seed oils in their cooking, and how different diseases started to emerge as they began to use seed oils. And it's pretty fascinating to read that and get that information. And it's also and then just the history of how even seed oils even came to be in our diet, how they even came to be
and that's
on the
the
planet.
book you would recommend.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good overview, and it's a little repetitive. I mean, he kind of says the same thing over and over again for a while. I mean, he probably could have made the book probably about half as long, but it's still good information. And
I've got a couple of things for you. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see. Cheeky Mare, first of all, give it up for Cheeky Mare, hardworking mod, who's she says, I'm attempting to do the 75 hard challenge, so I have to get my 45-minute workout outside. Catch you on the replay. Good for you. Go do your 45-minute workout. Thank you again for the quilt. This is Cheeky.
Man, that quilt is awesome. That's so nice of her. She made us an incredible quilt.
It's beautiful.
Very
Thank
amazing
you.
And very humbling, and we're very grateful for that.
Happy New Year. And yes, this is the way that it's spelled, Knobbe. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That book. Also, I noticed, I can tell you tried to sell Tiger when I was gone because people are saying, I'll give you 2 bits for Tiger.
Hey, I can't help it if people
bag
in
of chips.
the chat.
Pirate Tomsky's here. It says bags of chips for
Wait,
Tiger.
bags of chips. Are you talking about crisps or chips or French fries?
A bag of
That's the real
chips,
question.
that's French fries, probably. That's what he means.
Nah, because do they come in a bag?
Yeah. Don't they come in a bag
I
over
think
there?
they come in one of those. I think they come in like little.
35 cents for Tiger. What? How
Sold,
dare you?
sold.
How dare you? Okay. Anthony, this is a question for you from Elsa Barrett. Anthony, do you hunt? Great
No,
way to eat healthy.
I want to though. I really want. Carrie and I've been talking about it, and I've never been hunting. I wish I had been hunting, and that's something I'd like to do this year.
Let's put it on your list for
My
this year.
friend, well, several of my friends do hunt. Several people I know hunt, and my one of the bass players I play with, Duke. His name's Duke. He's older than me. I mean, he's like my parents' age.
He's a
Um,
badass.
yeah, he is. He's like just an old school cowboy. He has like one of those handlebar mustaches, and he used to work for
Very
the Texas.
handsome.
He used to work for the Texas Ranger. The Texas Ranger, the museum out in Fredericksburg, and he plays upright bass. And he also plays these cowboy songs, and he's just an
Let me just
awesome
let me
guy.
just tell you guys, ladies, he's the cowboy, he's just the type. That's my type. When you are an older fellow, I hope you grow
I'll grow
that
out a
big.
mustache.
Do it. Okay.
But Duke and his wife, they go hunting, and his wife's also very sweet, and we've talked about baking a lot because she's into baking, and her daughter's an amazing baker and all this. Anyways, he went hunting, and he gave us some deer meat, which Carrie made some chili with last night. But it really got me excited to go hunting, and we've talked about going together with Duke, and he
I would
he
love for
has
them.
to arrange it. So he was saying that he wants to arrange us to do that, and I hope that we can do that, get licenses, and go on our own. But like Carrie said, we have a deer processing place just right down the street. I mean,
Yeah,
we
but
can
you
walk
would
there in like
have
2 minutes.
I think you would have so
Oh,
much fun.
you don't have to sell me on it. I want to do
Yeah.
it, but I'm
You
just saying
should totally
I'm just saying
go.
in the meantime,
Yeah.
you know,
In the meantime.
yeah. But no, I would love to. I would love to go hunting. I've never been.
He was talking about the expensive the chips. Well, they're not that
Oh,
expensive. Not as
I get it.
expensive as we
Okay,
thought they were. But yeah,
okay, I got it.
pirate. Yes, he's an old-fashioned cowboy. I love the old-fashioned cowboy look. I just love it. Such a gentleman. He's such a gentlemanly look about him, and he's a man of like you, a man of all trades. And I love the upright bass is one of my favorite instruments. Yeah. Okay, a couple more things from the chat. Is it normal if I don't desire alcohol? Born again asks. It's as normal as desiring it, I guess.
Wait, does does that question mean you once used to drink alcohol? The person used to drink alcohol, or
No, I think they never did.
oh,
They've
that's
never
great.
wanted it.
Consider yourself lucky. I don't
Here's
want it either anymore. That's weird.
David Sullivan says, I've been wanting a beer lately. I've been sober for a year and a half. I've made a commitment and I won't go back on that. And yeah, food is one of my struggles now.
Yeah.
Okay, David, thank you for hanging out with us and chatting with us.
Can I say something about?
Say.
Oh, good.
Do it. You
Oh,
go.
well, I was going to say one thing that I've done, well, that I did early on, and I still do, is when I love beer, and so obviously I don't drink anymore. But one of the things that Carrie and I do is we occasionally drink an alcohol-free beer. But I think in this case, if you're desiring it
one.
and you're trying to fulfill that desire for a drink, find a non-alcoholic, like just a carbonated water. Just find here in Texas we have Topo Chico, or we have like other brands like Rainwater. But you
should not have a non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, don't have a non-alcoholic
beer
because it's going to make you want a real beer. And also when to me, carbonated water, like canned carbonated water, not like tonic water from the tap, from a bar tap. I mean, you could also drink that if you're just hanging out at the bar. I think that's fine. It just I don't think it tastes very good, but you can add flavoring to it. And it makes it, I don't know, it kind of gives me that same feeling of having had a beer because it's carbonated, and you can sip on it, and that's probably something good to do instead of if you're having that desire. It's not gonna fill your desire for it, but I mean, it's not drinking a beer obviously, but it's gonna help you. It's gonna just help. I think it'll help.
I think that's great advice, and I would agree with you, Anthony. Don't if you actually crave beer, like if you're or wine or whatever it is, don't have a non-alcoholic version of that thing because you're just trying to feed the demon with it. And so when I wrote that essay, for example, about advice for the newly sober, one of the things I said is some people should probably maybe never have a non-alcoholic beer or wine or whatever. Um, it just depends, only you know. But yeah, I wouldn't suggest that. Not that you were saying you wanted one. I'm just
Mhm.
it's an interesting thing for us to mention. But the other thing is, if you ever do get a craving, every once in a while, I'm blessed, knock on wood. I feel like I'm about to sneeze. This cold is not entirely gone. Um, but I'm blessed in that I don't crave alcohol a lot, which is shocking to me. But every once in a while, I will crave it. Let me tell you, my
Like this
drink of
weekend?
choice. Oh my gosh, yes. This weekend, uh, my drink was wine, but before wine, prosecco, champagne. I love the bubbly. Okay, always with the champagne and prosecco. And this weekend, Anthony had a show at the Four Seasons, which is one of the fanciest hotels in Austin. I really like that hotel, and it was beautifully decorated. I loved sitting in the lobby, and it was the kind of day, and it was beautiful outside, and it was still very holiday stuff around. It was all that nostalgia that you have sometimes when you're a former drinker, where you're like, "Oh, it'd be such a great day to have just a glass of champagne or a mimosa," right? And I had that feeling for a second of missing it. And then, as if to tempt me, Satan put a vending machine in the lobby of the
A
Four
champagne
Seasons.
vending machine. That was
It's a
hilarious.
champagne vending machine. The vending machine only
I was like,
gives you
"Keri, did you see that vending machine over by the bathrooms? I'm gonna take a look at that." She was like,
it's only bottles of champagne, like rosé and brut, and uh what? And so I was like, "Oh man, I've never gotten to buy a bottle of champagne out of a vending machine." The alcoholic voice was there this weekend. It hasn't been there in a long time. And of course, I wasn't going to have a drink though, because you know what? If you ever have that moment, David, where you're being tempted by whatever your drink of choice was, all I had to do. Oh, and then after that, we went to another venue for another show, and I was hanging out with a friend who was there, and she was drinking prosecco, which is fine. People can drink around me; it doesn't bother me. But because it was that day, like that alcoholic voice was there that day, and the waiter kept coming by and going, "Another glass of prosecco," and it was like right near my face. I'm like, "No."
well, and then yesterday I had that gig in the morning. I had an early
That's the
10 to
one.
1 gig. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they had that drink called the Man Mosa,
Oh,
and
they have.
the Man Mosa was like it's a mimosa, but it's a German beer stein, kind of like the size you would see at like the beer hall in Munich at the Hofbrauhaus in Munich. I mean, just giant. I mean, what is it? A liter? It's like a
Yeah.
giant beer stein, and it's an entire bottle of champagne with orange juice and whatever else you put in a mimosa. But it's called a Man Mosa, and people were drinking them everywhere. And Keri was just like, "Oh my god."
Oh, I would yes, that would be in my old drinking days, I would have ordered a Man Mosa for myself. It's a whole bottle of champagne in one, and they're just men carry them and I would have had a Man Mosa, but yeah, so, uh, I guess if you have that craving, here's what I do, and I knew I wasn't gonna drink, but it's still good to do this practice because you don't wanna let the nostalgic feeling take root without challenging it. I always challenge it. Even if I know I'm not gonna drink, I still challenge the feeling. So the feeling's like, "Oh, that would be nice to have a mimosa." I wish I could be the kind of person who could drink, right? I wish I could have a mimosa. And then I practice this, and it's because you're, like, strengthening the neural pathways with your thinking, right? So right afterwards, I'm like, "Okay, I want you to think beyond the imagery of sitting in a on this patio or in a nice hotel and having a glass of champagne. Think beyond that imagery, and now let's imagine what happens after. Okay, buying more bottles of champagne. Okay, going home and staying up all night drinking, and then getting sick because you haven't had anything to drink in so long, and then the next day drinking the next night, and then saying, "Well, I fell off the wagon, I might as well make the most of it," and staying drunk for like another 8 years. You know what I mean? I always make myself play it out, the movie out, because it's good practice for your neural pathways. rather than just have the good image of like, oh, remember what that was like when you would have a nice drink. So I would say this. I hope this is good advice for anyone and anyone like David who occasionally has a craving, who quit drinking and has a craving. Play the tape out. Like, let me see the whole tape. What happens? Yeah.
And also
Okay.
good that you quit drinking, but also, he said the food is a struggle now. So I hope that you can, you want to, it sounds like, so start paying attention to what you put in your body, because that's just as important food wise as any sort of, any sort of alcohol or any other
Yeah.
kind of illicit substances.
Yeah. So I think we should probably wrap up because we're at almost 3
3
hours.
hours. Yeah.
I didn't even realize it. This has been so fun just hanging out. Um, but I did have, let me see, before we go, what David says, this has been fun today. Yay. Somebody else said you make a good co-host, babe. A good guest
Watch out,
co-host.
Keri. Watch out.
Cheeky says we love Keri, but she's a little spacey with the communication stuff. I am, and thank you for knowing that about me and still loving me. And I appreciate it. Therese says Therese knows the flower you're talking about.
Yeah, einkorn.
Einkorn flower.
Einkorn flour is something I want to get. The grains are pretty hard to get, at least here, where we live. And I've tried to find some online, and they're pretty. I think they're the most expensive grain, but yeah, I'd love to bake with some of that, and I haven't done that yet. I'm pretty new to this still, but yeah, the einkorn for sure. And the einkorn, I think, is this grain that was found in the Iceman's stomach, the frozen man during the Ice Age. They saw his last meal in his stomach, and it was einkorn was in there in his stomach.
Einkorn. The Thrifty Chickadee says, I would love for you two to do more shows about the dietary things. It's very interesting. You know what? Maybe, I try and not take advantage of Anthony being my husband and request his time all the time.
Well,
But
I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm just learning. So you would need to have the person that.
Well, that's what I was about to
commented.
say.
Yeah.
Is maybe next time I have you on, that's when we have Jennifer Atkins on. Yeah, she says I love hearing all together.
Yeah.
Maybe I have you on with Jennifer because you would have good questions to ask also. Better than my questions. What else? Oh, Cheeky Mare, before she left, she said she's greatly reduced her Crohn's symptoms by reducing her processed foods. And
that's awesome.
Oh, and I thought you would like this one. Another folk singer says, I make my own mayo now with avocado and olive oil.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, avocado, like the regular mayo has, of course, seed oils in it. And we found a brand. Well, we got a brand recently that uses avocado oil. But I know mayo generally has a real short shelf life. So kind of what are they putting in that mayo to keep it, even though it's made with avocado oil? I mean, that begs the question. Spelt's also good. Yeah, spelt is a good, somewhat Asian grain. Someone says Channel Julia. Oh, go ahead.
Channel Julio.
Channel Julio. Sorry. Yeah, we just made. We've been using spelt the past couple of times we've baked. Keri made that cornbread last night with spelt, and then what did I make the other day? I think I made whatever I made the other day. I don't remember what else. Oh, I made banana bread with spelt. That's right. It was good.
Oh,
really
the banana bread was good.
Yeah.
And I like the cookies.
And I'm gonna make lasagna tonight with spelt, actually, with the spelt wheat.
We've been cooking a lot, even though our kitchen's not done. We're probably doing the kitchen next after we finish the Deprogrammed studio. Diana has a suggestion for us. She's Diana Clark, says Farmhouse on Boone has a blog and YouTube channel, and she uses einkorn flour in her sourdough.
I will check that out. Farm Horse on Boone. I'm gonna write that down.
Farmhouse on Boone. I wrote it down for you. And
that's one of my goals, by the way. The 2024 goal is doing sourdough. Anyways, thank you. I mean, that's all I had to say on that.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up. This cold is coming back right at it's telling me to go.
Somebody had a question that said, asking me about something specifically. It says, do you have any thoughts on imploding Marvel and Dismal? Disney.
Oh, and Dismal Disney. Oh, Anthony doesn't really pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you even know what that question means?
No.
I love
I know
that.
Marvel is like, is it Marvel Comics?
Yeah,
Marvel's
and
comics, I know that, but what is
the
is it Dismal?
studios, the movies, and Disney. Yeah, all the
Hmm,
movies, all the superhero movies, and how they've been flopping and they all
I don't
suck.
care.
They put it, but hey, you did watch. You guys, isn't it great that he actually kind of doesn't know anything about the entertainment woke news? But you did watch South Park Welcome to the Pandaverse.
Yeah, that
What'd you
was
think of
funny.
that?
That's pretty funny. I liked it.
Where they're sort of talking about Disney's been doing. So Kathleen Kennedy, you know who Eric Cartman, she's from Disney.
Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry, Anthony. Born Again says.
It's all right. I don't care.
It's okay. Anthony's a normie. You're
Probably
not
when it comes to that kind of stuff, I am. I mean,
yeah.
I know what's going on. I just don't really. It doesn't really pique my interest to get into it, to dive into it.
Yeah, he's more into like right now he's really into wheat, making homemade flour.
I've been into baking and reading about food and sometimes music. That's
Music.
a little bit, not really much music lately, but
Okay, last thing. Yarn Chicken and Shit is here. Hello, Tiara. Can I say your name? I don't know if I can say. Says, Keri, you need homemade chicken soup. Well,
we made chicken
Anthony,
and dumplings. Yeah,
he made homemade
but
chicken and dumplings with fresh milled flour for the dumplings. And we have leftovers of so many good things we've been cooking, so I should probably go have that. Also, the chili, the venison chili I made last night, it was said put 1 clove of garlic, and I'm like, I'm gonna put 8. Thank you. 1. Who does that? Who only puts 1 clove, especially if you're sick?
right.
Okay, last one, and then we are leaving, guys, and we hope you have a good rest of your New Year's Day and you go do things that you want to spend the rest of your year doing. I will see you on Wednesday. If you guys are going to be here Wednesday at 6:00 Central, we're doing our Christian panel. It's going to be me, Michelle from Force of Light, Odin from OMB Movie Reviews, and Brahma Bull, and possibly a special guest. We'll let you know. But last comment from Therese. Thanks, Keri and Anthony. Happy birthday, Tiger. Happy New Year, chat. Thank you, Therese. Thank you, Anthony, for being here.
Yep. Thanks for letting me do it.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.